Okay, so good morning, everyone. So for today, we will actually have our training on chemical handling and emergency response. So before I start our training here, I hope everyone can see my screen and also hear my voice clearly, right?
Yes, yes.
Yes or no? Yes,
Yeah.
okay, perfect. So for today, basically, before we start our meeting, definitely we want to know what is this training about, right? And also who am I? And we will have like ice breaking section so that I can also know who are you and what is your name, like this. So starting from me, I am Yap Shin Lim, or you can call me Shin or Shin Lim. So today I will be the trainer for today's session on the topic of chemical handling and emergency response. So basically, our training today will be starting at 9:30 to 5:30. And in between, we'll have some short break. Later on, we'll discuss on the time. And for your information, I am the consultant and also trainer under SQC. And my background is actually on mainly on environmental safety and health. So I did some of the projects on EHS related uh, projects and also some related to human rights, meta, social accountabilities as well. So for today, I'll be mainly handling on the training for chemical handling and emergency response. And my colleague is also with me. It's Ganjamin. She'll be assisting me to get the attendance and everything as well. Okay, so she's there. Okay, so before we start our session, so maybe we take turns to introduce yourself a bit and everyone. Maybe start from Jamin as well.
Hi everyone, I'm Jamin. You may call me Gan. So I just joined SQC recently, and I'm still undergoing training at the moment. But then I will be my background is also on environment, and I have some knowledge in ISO. So I can help out with some consulting on IMS and anything related to your ISO system. So I will do my best to help in case there's a need.
Okay, thanks, Gan. So maybe so from can I use the short form which is LTSD, or what are the short forms that you guys usually use for your company? LTSD, is it?
Yes, yes, we can use
Okay.
LTSD. No issue.
Okay, perfect. So maybe we start from Mr. Lau, is it this one? Mr. Lau? And
Yeah.
others will take turns to introduce yourself a bit.
Good morning. Jennifer here, yeah. Silim. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yes. Can
Okay,
hear you clearly.
sorry to say that, Silim, because
Mm-hmm.
we are all in a group in a way, and because
Oh,
actually we are in a rush in a way lah.
okay,
So maybe
okay.
we can skip this introduction.
Okay,
If
okay,
you
sure,
can,
sure.
yeah, just allow us to skip this. So we quickly go into the topics. I think
Okay,
it will be
sure.
good that way. If you have
Okay,
any
sure.
questions, then definitely we will post.
Can, no
All
problem, no
right.
problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, maybe to let,
Okay.
sorry, I'm Lisa here. Maybe to let
Mm-hmm.
Shin Lim know, is it? Basically, our boss is also here, Mr. Louis. He's the chief operating officer, and then the rest we also have our few senior managers, including myself, and in fact majority of our team are here. They consist of the operations officer as well as the supervisors. So they are all at four different sites: Prai, Taiping, Subang, and Lentong in JB. Yeah. So we shall skip like what Jennifer said lah. So this is an overview of our team today. And
Okay,
you
sure.
can proceed with the training. Yeah, in the interest of time, sorry.
Okay, it's okay, no problem. So, but then just to remind everyone also, please remember to write down your full name for the attendance and also the certificate purpose lah. Okay, thanks a lot. Okay, So if that case, we'll continue. So to have a mutual agreement on our break time, so we will see before and after lunch. If needed, we'll have a short toilet break or any 5 to 10 minutes break so that you can actually go for a short toilet break or any you need to handle any emergency thing lah. Okay, so apart from that, what is your lunch break time? Then we will actually follow your time.
I think tentatively,
Mhm.
we make it our lunch time is from 12:30 to 1:30 or 2.
Okay,
All right. Short break, I think we will decide that later. Maybe we set
sure.
about about 10:30.
Can, no problem.
Yeah.
Okay,
We play
no
by ears,
problem.
Sin Lim.
Pardon?
We play by ears.
Okay, okay, no problem.
Thank you.
Then, if that case, our lunch break will be around 12:30 lah. Okay, in that case, we'll continue for our training today on chemical handling and emergency response. So for today, our objectives here, there's 3 main objectives. First is to have to explain the general and specific information on how can we handle chemicals, what are the precaution, definitely, to define what are the precaution and the safety guidelines when we are handling chemicals. So next is, what are the PPE that we need to use or in general when we are handling chemicals? So during the general specific information and also the safety guidelines, of course, it will also include emergency, because emergency is not only related to fire, it is also related to chemical handling as well. Okay. Then for today, we will focus on 5 different topics. So the first part, definitely, it will be a brief introduction for you on our today's training. Then we will go into chemical safety, how we store, handle, and dispose of chemical. Next, we will introduce you a few types of PPE, or we call it personal protective equipment. So these are the PPE that we can actually use during when we are handling chemicals as well. Also, last part, we will focus on emergency preparedness and response. Okay, so come to this introduction. So first of all, we will go to legal requirements and some definition. So what are the classification and the chemical and also the chemical identification? So from before we start, what are the legal requirements that you are aware of when we talk about chemical handling? Or do you aware that what are the regulations that you need to fulfill after that? So basically, for us in Malaysia, the 2 main bodies or authorities that we always deal with when we talk about topic related to environment, safety and health will be definitely DOE, Department of Environment, and also DOSH, Department of Occupational Safety and Health. So under this legal requirement, for chemical handling, usually we will mainly focus on DOSH, which is related to safety and health. So next, so under the umbrella of DOSH, we will have Factory and Machinery Act. And next is this one, Occupational Safety and Health Act, or in short form, one is FMA, another one is OSHA. So for your information, in the future, once a new act is enforced, FMA is no longer applicable for everyone, and we will only focusing on OSHA. However, for your information, currently the new act is not enforced yet, meaning that we still need to comply with FMA as well. Okay, so now under this legal requirements, what are the regulation and also topics that they talk about chemicals? So firstly, under FMA, building operation and works of engineering construction regulation. So in this regulation, they talk about corrosive substances, which we can also refer to chemicals. So these are the substances that include alkalis, acids, and also other corrosive, toxic, or hazardous substances. So they mentioned that all these substances here shall be, and must be stored and also used so that it's not endangering our employees. Next, when we are using all these substances, we need to ensure that we have suitable protective equipment for each of the substances that we are using. And next, we need to ensure that we use clean water or appropriate cleansing materials when there is emergency or spillage or accidental spillage happen. And this clean water and these cleaning materials must be available and ready to use for all the employees. So this is what they mentioned in FMA. So next, this is actually a definition of chemical under this regulation under OSHA, which is classification, packing, and labeling of hazardous chemical. But for your information, this regulation is no longer using anymore. However, we still actually put this in to have a general understanding on what is chemical because of the definition. So chemicals here is any chemical elements or compounds or the mixture, whether it is natural or synthetic, which is man-made, but we do not include microorganisms. Okay, so other than those things that we have microorganisms, so no matter it is natural or synthetic, when there is a chemical element, we consider as chemicals. And this regulation, we call it class regulation. This is the version that we currently use. So in the future, when you want to refer to any legal requirement related to labeling of chemicals, you can refer to this as well, class regulation. So the actual name of this regulation is actually classification, labeling, and safety data sheets of hazardous chemicals. So for this regulation here, okay, what is the chemical that they mention inside here? So you say it's quite long, right? So in general, what they mention, and as long as that substance, they have chemical element or it compound, whether it is in natural or it's obtained by any manufacturing process, meaning maybe it's man-made, okay? So including any rate of their stability, also their impurities, then this will be included, or we call it as a chemicals. Or we say when there is any mixture, so this is also considered as a chemical. So anything surrounding you, for example, like your hand sanitizer, or the diesel that you are using for your transportation, or what else? Okay, some company, they will use some chemicals to clean for their cleaning purpose. So these are also chemical. Some detergent for cleaning is also under chemicals as well. Just that we need to see how hazardous is it for this chemical. Okay. So for degree of chemical, so this will be a bit of you need some imagination, okay? So what we call, how is it the highest degree, highest hazardous level, and the lowest hazardous level? Okay, so this will be the flow where you see flammable, it's the lesser hazardous level. And when go up to this direction, explosive will be the highest hazardous level. So flammable meaning it's easily burned up. Then highly and extremely flammable, it will be defined by the calculation as well. They have formulas to define whether it's considered as highly flammable or extremely flammable. Then oxidizing meaning that it will react with oxygen. Then explosive meaning, yeah, explode, boom, like this, explosive. Then next, another degree So that will be more to like the safety kind of characteristic, where it's more to the outer part. But this is more to inner part. For example, our health, our human health, our human health lah. So the degree of hazardous, starting from the bottom, it will be irritant, meaning that maybe we will feel a bit itchiness. Okay. Then next, only we go to corrosive, then harmful to our body, maybe harmful to our organ, toxic, then very toxic. So this will be the degree of hazardous when we go into the health part. Okay. So that will be some brief introduction on the legal requirements and also an idea of hazardous level. So if you have any question, please just put in the chat box, or you can just raise your hand or stop me lah, so that we can have a discussion from time to time as well. Okay. So next will be chemical classification. How we classify. So under this chemical classification, we need to know that first, definitely chemical is hazardous. And all this chemical will cause first our safety, which is linked to injury, or our health, which is linked to chronic disease, chronic illness, or even death. So when we do classification, we need to it's covering a few topics lah. This one is hazard identification. Next, we will see physical states, health hazard, and etc. So we go for this hazard identification first. So first of all, when we look at this chemical, we need to know what is the hazardous level of the chemicals. Okay. So for example, the example of hazardous, for example, they will mention it's fire, it's irritant, it's reactivity. So all this information later on, it's also applicable, and you can actually find it in your safety data sheets. Later, I will also let you go through an example of safety data sheets. Then I will also tell you how you can actually get information using your safety data sheet as well. So next is about the state of the chemical. So usually when we mention chemicals, right, usually the first idea is, oh, chemical is in liquid form. But no, chemical can be in solid and gas form as well. For example, solid. So some of the company, it's not very common, but when some companies, they have like one bottle, then you can see that it's some chemicals, tablets inside. So these are in solid form. So the liquid form is the one that we usually know lah, like hand sanitizer, and our detergent, our diesels, all these are in liquid form. And for gas, usually for gas form, we will actually get it in the form of compressed gases. So these are example of chemicals that is in gas form. Just that the one that we usually expose to, it's in liquid form lah. Okay, so now for health hazard, we will have two types of health hazard. One is acute, and another one is chronic. So the difference between acute and chronic is that for acute, meaning that when you are exposed to that hazardous chemical, you have immediate reaction to that chemical. And for chronic, you will not have any immediate reaction, but after maybe for 20 years, 50 years, then the disease will come. So example of acute, when you are handling some very corrosive or concentrated hydrochloric acid, so you accidentally spill off, right? So you notice that, oh, there is some corrosive reaction happening. That is acute, immediately happen. Or some when you are going into a room which is full of this chemical, and when you went inside, you suddenly feel dizziness, or you feel like you are going to faint. Okay, that is example of acute as well. So you have immediate reaction. And next one, it's chronic. So usually chronic is like after 10 years, or after 20s or maybe 50 years. After you have retired, then suddenly you found out that, oh, you touch wood, you have cancer. So these are examples of chronic. So it will accumulate in your body for a long time because of not proper handling of chemicals. Then this kind of chemicals, after accumulation for so many years, it will turn out to be cancer as well. Okay. Then next, so the hazard communication requires that chemicals be identified both by their names and potential hazard. Yes. So when we are communicating our chemicals information, we need to communicate our hazardous as well, the hazard characteristic as well. So usually how we communicate, maybe we can use safety data sheets to communicate. Some even when we use some chemical labeling. So you maybe if you have any chemicals nearby you, or you are in any areas that you can actually grab the chemicals, you can actually take a look. Each of this chemical, when you purchase from your supplier, there is one labeling. So that is also one way of communication. So that is how we do hazard communication. So identification first, we can actually get from safety data sheets. So what are the informations that we have in your safety data sheets? First of all, chemical names and common names. The difference between chemical names and common name. Chemical names is we call it the scientific name, okay? And common name, maybe it's actually the name that is generally known by public, and also maybe it's a name of created by that brand when they want to sell to the public. So there's two types of name that you can actually found in the safety data sheets. And next, they will mention also who is the manufacturer, the address, phone, and also emergency number of the manufacturers. Now, you'll be wondering, okay, we have all these phone emergency numbers of the manufacturers, but if you realize most of the manufacturers are from US, Europe country, so when you have emergency, how can you contact them, right? So that's where we have chemical labeling, because we also include our information of our supplier. So maybe the supplier is actually in Malaysia. So if there's any emergency or help needed, you can contact your supplier. Okay. So next is hazardous ingredient. So in the safety data sheet, if you look through, I think it's in section 2 or section 3, they will mention what are the compounds that they have, components that they have in this specific chemical. This is where they put in the hazardous ingredients. And next, they will also include any other information so that they help you to identify the characteristic of the chemicals to understand that chemical. So now in the safety data sheets or even in your chemical labeling, you can actually see this kind of label. So usually if you found this, meaning that there is explosive characteristic, flame, fire. So this, which means it's a compressed gas, corrosive. Usually when you saw this kind of label and this exclamation, meaning that it's danger, it's toxic, okay? And if you saw this, meaning that it will actually have significant effect to your organ or to your health. And lastly, when you saw this, meaning that when you want to dispose this chemical, please dispose appropriately. Although other chemicals, without this label, you still need to dispose according to the right way lah. But for this kind of chemical, meaning that if you do not dispose properly, or according to the instruction, it will cause damage to the environment because of the chemical characteristic of it. Okay. So before,
Sorry, Ashimi.
yes,
One quick question. I think you talk about safety document worksheet.
yes,
Is it when the auditor come to audit, is it okay we only prepare single language, example like English version or maybe Chinese version?
yes, good
This one is
question.
buy from
Good
China.
question. So yes, thank you. It's a very good question where we will actually focus after this also when I show you the safety data sheets. But then to answer you directly, first of all, we need to know the legal requirements during the audits, or even it's not, I believe, I remember I talked to your consultant also, you are under SMETA, right? So under SMETA audit or even legal or SMETA audit, we talk about SMETA audit first. They have concern of safety and health and also environment. So you are taking two pillar or four pillar environment?
4 pillar.
4 pillar, okay. So no matter it's 2 pillar or 4 pillar, they mentioned about the minimum requirements to the national standards lah. So for now, when they do audits, they will ask you to show them your safety data sheets. So when your safety data sheet showing that, oh, this chemicals is considered as a hazardous chemical, then you need to show 2 language, BM and English, which is our legal requirement. But if the chemicals that you show them, after they read it, oh, they notice that this chemical is not considered as a hazardous chemical, then English it's okay already. So that's 2 conditional. Later on, I will also show you safety data sheet to help you to identify which is considered as a hazardous and which one is non-hazardous. So I believe always most of the company will face one issue. It's I purchase from overseas. I can't actually I can't get the Malay version from them, right? I think this is the main challenge. Am I right?
Yes.
So for your information, there are also some company that provide service, like provide you a service on how on translating the chemical safety data sheet lah, or your SDS lah. So there's some situation you approach external provider to have this translation service. Another one is you get a chemist to help you to write the safety data sheets.
Oh,
Because
we cannot use a Google Translate to just translate.
Because after you do the translation, because if you use Google Translate, there is some industrial terms or any chemical terms when they do translation, it may not be the most appropriate writing or wording. So each of these translation, after translation is done, this translation must be actually approved by the legal authorities as well. There's one Jambatan Kimia one, I believe it's them that is doing the thing. So the easiest way is actually, if you have a chemist, then you approach the chemist. If not, you get a service provider to help you to do the translation service.
Okay, you can proceed
Okay.
first. We see
Okay,
later.
sure. Okay, sure, no problem. So for the first section, first chapter, any other question? Let's see whether there's something in the chat box. Okay, no. So if there's no question, so I will proceed to this second chapter. Is it okay? Okay, then I'll proceed to chapter 2 on chemical safety. So now, when we talk about chemical safety, the 2 main topics here we will include here is the general safety guidelines, general practices when we are handling chemicals, and another one is safety data sheets. So before I start this chapter, this is just a general safety guidelines. Why I mentioned it's a general safety guidelines is because when we are handling different chemical, we have different method, or we say different specific method. So how we handle the specific method, it's through the information in your safety data sheets. And another one is chemical health risk assessment. So if you have done your chemical health risk assessment, the assessor will give you recommendation on specific safety handling to that specific chemicals. Okay, so for today, the safety guidelines and practice is actually general for all types of chemical, usually how we do it. Okay, so now when we are handling chemicals, first of all, the first thing that we must do is to understand and read your safety data sheets. So this safety data sheet is like your user manual for your any of your machines or equipment in your premise. When, for example, when you want to use a forklift, you need to know how to use it. Maybe the supplier will actually give you training on how to use this forklift, right? So apart from that, they will also have like a general guidelines or a user manual on how to use it. So this user manual is actually like safety data sheets, where safety data sheets will give you information telling you how to use this specific chemical appropriately. So first of all, when we handle chemicals, first thing, read the safety data sheets. Then next, when we handle chemicals, we must make sure that personal protective equipment, or we use PPE. All this PPE must be available, and we must wear all this PPE when we use chemicals. So what types of PPE should be used depending on what are the chemicals. Next, keep eye wash and shower, fire extinguisher, fire alarm station, and exit clear. Know the location. So now, when you have chemicals in your premise that is in liquid form, so first of all, let me just have a clear idea. What are the chemicals that you have in your premise? And is it in liquid form?
If talking about truck, definitely will be fuel, lubricant.
Yes,
that one is
then
more on
definitely.
trucking.
Yeah lah. Then it will be in liquid form already, right? So that is like a gray area, because why I mentioned this is because when we have chemicals, but the chemicals is in solid form. If the chemicals is in solid form, there is no potential splash to our eye or to our body, right? So this situation, usually emergency eye wash or eye shower is not really required. But if you have chemicals that is in liquid form, meaning that there is a hazard of potential splash to your body, to your eye, to your skin, or anywhere, then emergency eye wash and shower is very important. So you must make sure that this equipment is available and it's near to your place where you handle your chemicals. Next, fire extinguisher, fire alarm. So these are what we call the fire safety system. Make sure you have all this, and we know where is the location, meaning that we will have like a label, or we usually will have like a, what's that called? The emergency road, right? So in that emergency road, you will highlight also, okay, first aid kit is here, the exit is here, there is fire extinguisher at this location. So make sure that we know where is it. Next, never eat, drink, chew gum, smoke, or apply cosmetic, wear open toe shoe in the workplace, especially in lab. Or if you have any location that is having chemicals. Why I mention this is because some chemicals, they will actually entering to our body by ingestion, meaning that we intake it. So that's why we need to avoid eating, drinking, even smoking or anything in your workplace. Apart from apply cosmetic, is the main part is actually on where you have all these accessories. So avoid having accessories when you are entering to this hazardous location, because we don't know this chemical, will they have any reaction to the accessories or to the cosmetic products, as well as we are not sure when there is reaction to this kind of thing, what will happen to our body. So for example, I have one ring with me. I always wear it. So now, if I enter to one location which is hazardous, there is, okay, imagine, for example, this ring here will not have reaction to the chemical. However, when I walk to any location, I accidentally exposed to certain chemicals, and that chemical it's remain in my ring, okay, on my ring. So now I do not know, and I wear it. So now in this situation, that chemical will remain on my ring, and it will cause some effect to my fingers. So we avoid that. Apart from that, do not wear open toe shoe. So where you have all the loading on and unloading, definitely we don't wear open toe shoe, right? Because that is heavy equipment, have a heavy equipment. Other than that, when we are handling chemicals, the shoe that is covered, right? Covered shoe can actually help us to protect our toe from any spillage of chemicals, because we do not know what are the chemicals, the characteristic of the chemical. And imagine the chemicals that you are using, it's maybe there is certain hazardous level. So when there is some spillage to your food, then it may have some unwanted effect lah. Okay, so make sure you do not do these activities in this area. Next, wear the shoe that's completely cover the feet. So as mentioned just now, make sure it's covered shoe, and wash your hand frequently before eating. So this is also one thing where we don't know whether we have any chemicals stick on our hand. So make sure every time, when it's not only after before you're eating, when you went out from the area, maybe you are entering the office area, make sure you clean yourself first before entering, because we hope that we are not bringing any residues, chemical residues into that place. So another thing that I forget to highlight when in this the fourth statement here on never drink. So there is a lot of cases where some companies they are okay to let the workers to have their drinks in their workplace. The workplace that I mentioned is not office, maybe it's in the warehouse or any production areas or any location. So now, if you notice, for our Malaysia practice, usually we love to reuse all this kind of bottle. So this kind of bottle to actually put in our chemical. So now there are some cases out there which they reuse this bottle and they put in chemicals. However, they do not have proper labeling. And this chemical is odorless and also colorless, meaning that they do not know it's a chemical. So the operators accidentally drink it, so end up hospitalized. So make sure, why they always say never drink lah, is because they try to eliminate any potential accident that may happen in the workplace. Okay. So next, your hair your clothing, this one jewelry that I mentioned. So it's actually the same theory. We do not want our shirt or our hair is bringing any chemical residue to the public area. And next is that if there is chemicals that is attached to our clothes or our hair, right? We do not know. Okay. So I tell you one thing, during my university time, my just to check with you guys, is there there's some background noise from my side, is it? So if that is, I'm so sorry because I think there's some, there's some car passing by and having some advertisement. So I try to make my voice louder so that you can hear me clearly. So go back to the clothing part. So my roommate, luckily that she wear her lab coat in the lab because she accidentally, there is some chemicals residues that stick on her lab coat. So actually that chemical is actually hydrochloric acid and she do not aware on that. So at the end of the lab section, right, she noticed there is some itchiness and she feel a bit like burning reaction on her hand, on her shoulder. Then only she realized that just one small drop of hydrochloric acid, it really corrode all the it corrode the lab coat and into the t-shirt that she's wearing, and there's some small burn on her skin. So imagine if you are not wearing any protective equipment and you have some loose clothing. So it is actually giving a higher potential of you to have this chemical residues on your body or on your clothes. So make sure that you do not have all this loose clothing when you are handling chemicals or near to the place where you are handling chemicals. Next, after you handle chemicals, for example, maybe you are using gloves, make sure that before you entering the public area or entering office or inside this training material, we call it common areas, right? Remove your glove, which is your PPE, because that glove also it's contaminated and there is some chemical residues on the glove itself. Okay, next is spill kit must be readily available. So now, why we need spill kits? The theory of this spill kit is actually same as the emergency eye wash thing. So imagine when there is some spillage, so you may need to have some specific method to clean it up. So we need to ensure that chemical spill kits are always ready and all the materials or the item in the spill kit is not expired. One thing that is important. So, for example, some chemicals, when there is some spillage, we need to use like a cotton thing to contain it. Then that whole thing will be disposed as a scheduled waste. So another thing that we always, another method that we always use when we are dealing with fuel and diesel, we will use sand. Because sand, when there's spillage, we will actually use sand to absorb all the diesels and the oil. Then that one will also you dispose as a proper method, schedule waste. Okay? So when that is spillage, make sure spill kit is ready and you need to clean up the spillage. So next, chemical store door must be kept closed at all times. So for your information, if you have any chemicals, definitely chemicals are restricted materials, right? Because we need to ensure that the people that is handling that chemicals, they know how to use it properly. And we do not hope that there is misuse of chemicals, right? So the chemical storage area usually need to be locked and restricted from the non-trained personnel. So we always need to ensure when we are not using it, make sure it is closed and it is locked. Okay. And next, do not store food in refrigerator used for chemicals. Yes, there are some chemicals they have specific storage requirement, meaning that maybe they need to store it in a lower temperature. So because of that, some company they will actually have one refrigerator to keep chemicals. So make sure food is not kept together, not only in the refrigerator, even in your pantry, where you have some of the location where you store maybe your biscuit, Milo, and all this thing, right? Your cups. So make sure you do not store it together with the detergent where you for cleaning purpose, right? So make sure you store it separately. Next, ensure chemicals are properly labeled. So what do I mean by properly labeled? So one thing, when we talk about chemicals, there's two types of chemicals. One is chemicals that is classified as hazardous chemical, and another one is not classified as a hazardous chemical. So now, if that chemical is not a hazardous chemical, when you do labeling, you do not need to follow any requirement. You just need to just label the chemical name. For example, you have one bottle here, and this bottle you store chemicals inside. So make sure you tear off this mineral water label, you label with the chemical name. If that chemical is a non-hazardous chemical, so you just label the chemical name is sufficient. So now, if you have chemicals that is under hazardous chemical, you must label according to class regulation. So what I mean by according to class regulation, let me just share you one example of label, which is not within the slide. So maybe later on, if you guys need it, you can capture it. So hold on, let me just share it. Okay, so if you see this screen here, it's actually a web. So if you need any information also, you can actually Google this keyword. Class labeling, CLASS, class labeling. Okay, so for class labeling, when you saw it, you can actually go to our Department of Occupational Safety and Health. So they also mention how to label it appropriately. So this is the label that is originally found in your chemical container from your supplier. So when you purchase chemical from your supplier, they must provide this label to you, and this label is there on your container. So what are the important elements that you must have? First, the name of the chemical. So if it's a hazardous chemical, you need to have both language as well, English and Malay. So you'll see there's English and Malay. So next, the manufacturer, see this one, product identifier. Next is the supplier identification. Supplier identification here includes your manufacturer and your supplier, both. So when there's emergency, you can directly contact your supplier because usually the manufacturers are from overseas. Okay, then the third one is hazard statement. So this is what called a hazard statement. They will mention, okay, whether it's toxic, is it danger, is it cancerous or any statement lah, they will mention inside here. And fourth, they will have this precaution statement. So they will have this danger and bahaya term lah on the label. Fifth, signal word. So, sorry, the precaution statement is here and signal word is this one, danger and bahaya. So precaution here is, for example, they will mention, okay, avoid using in what area, avoid using with what chemicals. And lastly, we call this as the hazard pictogram. They'll have the picture. So the picture that just now I showed you guys on the label part, so they'll put it there also. So this is the proper way of labeling hazardous chemical. So no matter it's on the original container or the secondary container, you need to label it in this way. Okay. So next. So this is what we mentioned on ensuring that we label the chemical properly. And next, do not use the equipment unless you have properly instructed. So now, one thing, you read the safety data sheets. If you are not trained or you do not know how to use it, do not use it. And we follow the proper practice so that we minimize the hazardous level. Next, make sure the work area is always clean. Maybe we can say you can actually practice 5S housekeeping. Practice housekeeping. Why we need to have this? It's because, for example, if your materials or the boxes is scattered around, okay, there's no proper housekeeping. When you're holding a chemical, you accidentally kick one box and you fell down, then the chemical will spill. So this is important. Why we need to have a proper housekeeping when we are handling chemical as well. Do not leave any exposed sharp unattended. So why we need to practice this as well. So now, imagine you are handling chemicals and there is accidental spillage. At that moment, maybe you will feel like you are helpless, you don't know what to do. It's like there's total blank off, you don't know what to do. If there is any exposed sharp nearby, they may have the potential of having injury as well. So make sure all the blades, needles, anything, keep it in their correct location. Okay? Label all the containers and keep the containers closed except when it's used. So last time when I'm still working in the factories, right, I always notice one thing. When they transfer to another chemical, to another container, they will forget to tear off the original labeling. So the labeling will be incorrect. So it will cause some unwanted effect also lah. For example, we do not know that this is the chemicals, then we misuse it. Apart from that, there's one situation is always that after use it, they do not close it. Or they always mention, oh, we are still using, but then it's not using already. So why we need to always ensure it's closed is because one thing, some chemicals, they have some characteristic where they will evaporate. Then you may actually expose to the chemical vapor. Next is that, imagine when there is any trip or fall nearby, you may accidentally take that chemical or container or anything, then chemical spillage will happen. So make sure you always close the chemicals when you are not using it anymore. Next, avoid expose to the hazardous material. We don't expose with our bare hand or any like barefoot, we wear proper PPE so that it will protect us. It's like we are wearing our shirt when we are going out. So when you do not wear your PPE when you are handling chemicals, it's like you are not wearing your shirt. So it will not protect our body. Okay, so make sure you protect yourself by using proper method as well as proper PPE. So next, do not play or practice any joke or any act that is prohibited in the place where you are handling chemicals or even in the place you are working, because there is a potential of having any kind of injuries that may happen. Okay, so we do not want this thing that's happening in your workplace. So do not practice all this action or act in your workplace where you have not only chemicals, where you have your heavy machines, your equipment around. Okay, so that will be the general safety guidelines and how you can actually practice when you are handling chemicals. So next, we move to safety data sheets. So before that, any question? No? If no question, is it okay for me to proceed? Or do you want to have a short toilet break so that you can actually go to the toilet, or you want to handle anything, any emergency thing? Okay, then proceed. Okay. If there's no any question, then we will proceed with our safety data sheet. Okay, for now, for our safety data sheet, so we must always ensure that when there's chemical in your workplace, you have safety data sheets. Why safety data sheet is important? Because they will have a lot of the information regarding on the safety and health when you are using the chemical. Even like the way of using your chemical is also mentioned inside here. So safety data sheets must be available for all the chemicals that you are using in your workplace. So now, what are the content that we have in our safety data sheets? First, they will mention about the identification, meaning that they will mention about the name, description of the chemical, or any other common names of that specific chemicals. Next, they will go to the ingredient or the hazards. They will mention about the component. So maybe this chemical is a mixture from chemical A, B, and C. So they will mention the component inside and how many percent they have. Next, they will mention about the hazard information. So hazard information here later on, I will show you the safety, one of the example of safety data sheet as well. So you can look through how it is written. And if you are access to your safety data sheets, you can later on, when we go through one of the example of safety data sheets, you can use it to read through as well. Okay. So next, they will have the information like this chemical characteristic lah, okay? So they will mention about the physical point, the state of the chemicals, then they will mention about the what we call the maybe the flame point or the reactivity of the chemicals. All the information is inside there. Then they will also tell you about the health hazards. When there is spillage or leakage, what is the procedure? Any special protective needed when you are using chemicals? Any precaution? So example of precaution, maybe they will mention when you are using it, please avoid using it in direct sunlight, usually they will mention storage. Avoid storage under direct sunlight. Avoid storage with oxidant. Avoid storage under any other requirements lah. So they will mention in the safety data sheet. So now we will go into one example of SDS. So if you have the access to any of your safety data sheets, please, you can actually take the safety data sheets with you and we can look through together as well. Okay, let me just show you the example of safety data sheets. So this is one safety data sheet that I found online. It's on diesel fuel. So I believe this is also quite familiar for you guys because you are using all this also, right? So first part, they talk about the identification of the chemical. So this is the part where they identify the chemical. So you see, they will mention the chemical name. This is the name, and these are the other name that they also use it. Okay, and the information of the manufacturer when there's emergency, what contact number then you need to call. So this is the identification part. Next is the hazard identification, where first they will include the the component and the percentage. So as you can see inside here, so we know, okay, first they will have the hazard first. So it is as a flammable liquid. So this is the code. So for your information, these are actually commonly used for internationally, meaning that everyone is using the same thing as well. Okay, so it's carcinogenic. So this is the code. Then they will have the labeling. So this is where we identify whether this chemical is hazardous or non-hazardous. When the chemical is non-hazardous, you will not have all these hazard statements here. And they will mention this, maybe they will mention one statement where you can look through. This chemical considered or categorized as non-hazardous chemical under what regulation? They may have this statement as well. So this is where you identify whether this chemical is hazardous or non-hazardous. So from here, it's clearly know that this chemical is hazardous, meaning that in Malaysia, we need to follow according to the class labeling and also class regulation. So they will mention about the hazard statement here. Okay, so it will cause skin irritation, may be fatal if you swallow, so may cause cancer. Okay, so this is where you see, where they mention about, okay, toxic to aquatic life, may cause eye damage or irritation. So precaution when you use it, make sure that you keep away from all these things. You keep the container tightly closed. Okay, so this is what all the example of caution that when you need to highlight or emphasize when you are using this chemical. So you see, wear protective gloves, protecting clothing, eye protection, face protection. So this is where we have on the composition, all the components. So for example, for this specific chemical, they have these two elements. And the percentage of these two elements is here. And this is the hazard classification of these two chemicals here. So for your information, this CAS number is like the IC number for that chemical. So it is commonly used internationally. So if you go and Google search this CAS number, it will only come up this chemical. So this is like the identification. And next is that, okay, so some chemical manufacturer, maybe you are worried that, when some chemicals are, if you add on the percentage, you will notice that it is not 100%, because some chemicals is like they have their secret recipe from the manufacturer. So they will not return, or they will not identify all the specific ingredient that they have. But no worries on that, is because there, if the chemicals or the ingredients that they have in that specific chemical is hazardous, they must be turned down in this section. Meaning that, for example, they have 10 components in that specific chemical. 9 of it are hazardous. So they must put that 9 ingredient or that 9 component in this box. So they can choose not to put that one ingredient that is non-hazardous ingredient. Okay, so there's no worry on that, so that we always aware that what are the hazardous ingredient that they have in this specific section. And apart from that, so if just to check with you, you are only using diesel, right? Any other chemicals that you are using except from diesel and fuel?
How about battery?
Pardon?
Battery?
Battery water, is it?
Can be. Uh,
From what I know, battery water, it's non-hazardous lah. Okay, but okay, we talk in general. So no matter what are the chemicals that you are using, one thing is that from what I know, the chemicals that you are using, there's no worries on poison act, because some companies, the chemicals that they use, the element maybe is considered as a poison under the legal requirements. What is it? Why we consider as a poison, but we still can use it, right? So under legal requirement, there is a list of chemicals which is under Poison Act, meaning that this chemical is a controlled and restricted chemicals. So when you want to use it in Malaysia, you need to get license, and usually customs side will restrict, and they want to see your license before you are importing these chemicals. Why is it restricted and controlled? Is because these chemicals can be used to manufacture, to produce poison, even like tablets for medical use, pharmaceutical use lah. Okay, so that's why they control it, because it will become drugs as well. So for your case, I think you are not using any chemicals that is listed under Poison Act lah. Because if there is, then you need to apply for the permits. Okay, so this is just like the additional information for you guys. So next part, you will, if you
sorry.
yes,
Shin,
yes,
okay, for our trucking operations now, we
Mm.
only use two, which we need to clarify. One is the fuel, that is a diesel.
yes,
The other
yes.
one is truck battery.
Mm.
All right. So
Mm,
are
mm, mm.
these two under this chemical hazards?
Mm-hmm. So you see this, or maybe first we look at the fuel first. So usually all the SDS that I look through, when it comes to diesel and fuel, is considered as a hazardous chemical. This example here is also a diesel fuel example for your safety data sheets. So it's still considered as a hazardous. So if you look through your own safety data sheet, I believe you can find all this inside your safety data sheets as well. So it's still under hazardous chemical lah.
How do we get all this? Because we get fuel from petrol station and all this. So do we really need to get this? Because it's
Okay, you purchase, or I mean, you go and pump the petrol, right? So,
Yes.
for example, so some companies, like for your case lah, you are not purchasing like through a supplier, right? So you can actually do it this way. You go and Google So for example, you are getting from Caltex, then you add safety data sheet. So you see, you can actually get the safety data sheets from online also. So you look at it, which one is the one that you are using. Then you can actually download this. Okay. So some safety data sheets, right? You can actually get it from Google also. So you need to specify lah, what is it. So if you couldn't get the specific brand, you look for the similar one. So this is applicable if you do not like purchase the chemicals from the supplier. So you can use this method, and auditor will accept also.
Shinina, how about like our truck? We frequently go to different workshop to do servicing lah. So
Servicing,
surely
okay.
they will change the gear oil,
Mm-hmm.
engine oil. So
Mm-hmm.
that one, do we need to look for SDS prior to stand
Not
by for
really.
auditor? Not really,
It's
huh?
okay.
Okay.
Usually, if you are, I believe from my understanding, you are more to doing like a logistic thing, is it?
Yes, yes.
So if that case, usually the main one is this diesel and fuel lah. Other than that, some example is like they will have some cleaning or detergent, then maybe there is different chemicals on that part lah for the cleaning purpose, cleaning and detergent. Other than that, usually fuel only, fuel diesel.
Okay.
So you can actually, if you didn't purchase, because some company that they do logistic, they will have one big diesel tank at their place. So definitely if you have that diesel tank, meaning that you are purchasing from, for example, Caltex or Petronas, then you have the safety data sheets. Apart from that, if you are just doing like you go and pump the diesel, then you will not have that thing, right? So you can actually Google it and you get through Google. Okay. Then, okay, let's go to the next part where after you have this component, then next they will talk about the first aid measurements. So for this one, they will mention, okay, now when there is any accident or any first aid needed. So now, if that person suddenly they feel dizzy because they inhale a very concentrated amount of diesel, what you need to do. So it's mentioned inside here, okay, you need to remove that person from that location to maybe an open area or fresh air so that they can actually refresh themselves. If needed, please seek for medical attention. So if anything also after you feel that you are okay also, still it is better you look for a doctor to seek for advice lah. Next, if someone accidentally ingests the fuel, what to do? Now, usually when we talk about accidental ingest, the common way you will say, we try to vomit it out, right? But some chemicals you need to always highlight, some chemicals you cannot do this method because some chemicals, they have effect, especially for example, like corrosive. When you accidental ingest and you induce vomiting, it will have another corrode to your organ lah. So some chemicals you cannot induce vomiting. Like for example, this one, they also mention do not induce vomiting. So when there is accidental ingest, what to do? You refers to this one as well. So that's why we always mention before you use the chemical, we understand the chemicals first. Okay. So next, eye contact, meaning that when there's accidental splash to your eye, what to do? So usually we go to the emergency when there is eye contact lah. We go to emergency eye wash. then we use the water to clean and rinse our eye. So usually will be around 15 minutes, which is this one. Okay, so if you have any contact lenses with you, please remove it. And next, skin contact. So for example, splash to your body. So usually we will look, if possible, we get to the emergency shower so that the water will rinse through. After that, please clean your body with, like you are doing shower lah, okay, normal shower, you clean your body with soap and everything. And you wear a new dress, sorry, not dress. Working, we will not use dress. You wear a new shirt or clothing or shoe, okay? And if you notice that there is any burn to your body, please look for doctors. So immediate seek for medical advices. So here also, they also did mention, okay, when you have long term of exposure to this chemical, what will happen? So you need to ensure that you are aware on all these hazardous. So for example, okay, it may cause irritant, itchiness. Okay, inhalation may cause irritant as well. So now, immediate seek for attention, medical attention and special treatment. So for these cases, please look for doctors. So that will be more to our safety and health, which is more to our first aid. So next, they also mention about firefighting, meaning that if there's any fire breakout. So for information, when there is need of firefighting measures, the fire extinguisher may be different. So usually you will see, you will mention like ABC, then they will have like carbon dioxide and all this thing, right? So the common one is, of course, carbon dioxide. So the proper fire extinguisher that you need to purchase is also based on what are the chemicals that you have in your premise. So from the chemicals that you have, basically what you need mainly is this carbon dioxide. So these are the extinguisher media that you need to use to extinguish the fire. Okay, so now they also mention when there's small fire, what to do. When there is large fire, what to do. And always remember, if you do not know how to handle the fire, please call for the professional one, which is bomba. Okay, so now they will have also this specific precaution and what other protective equipment that you need to wear when you are doing firefighting. So you don't do firefighting with your normal clothing without the PPE, okay? Please wear the proper PPE lah.
Finley,
Yes.
sorry, is this section is going to be long? Because just thought that, maybe we can take a break.
Sure. We can have a short break. Then we'll continue for
Is it going to be long for this STS?
because there is still a few section yet. So I think maybe
okay.
if you're okay, then we can actually take a short break first.
Yeah, we take a short break. Yeah.
Okay.
Mm.
Then around 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah. Now
Okay.
it's 2:54, so
Yes.
11:05 lah, 10 minutes.
Can, no problem. Then we'll come back at
Appreciate your
11:05.
Thank you.
Okay, no problem. So we'll come back in 10 minutes time. Okay, so we will continue our session after a short break. So just now we already go through these firefighting measures. So next after that, you will notice that other than firefighting measure, they will also highlight on when there is any accidental release. Accidental release in this case is referring to accidental spill. Okay, so now when there is any accidental spill, definitely you have your own emergency response plan, right? Other than that, they also mention about what is the personal precaution. Okay, then when there is precaution, environmental precaution, because when there's accidental spill, maybe the spiller is near to the drainage system. So now, when there's accidental spill, make sure we contain it and avoid spillage to the water body nearby. So when there is any spillage to the water body nearby, please do notify DOE so that proper remediation or proper procedures can be done to avoid further pollution to the water body lah. Okay. So I remember that day I'm actually going to Ipoh for one of my client site. So there's one big truck that is carrying diesel tank, you know. So I think there's accident happened and the diesel actually spilled to the drainage system. It's actually beside the highway. So during that time, they also have yes, any question? Yes, who is actually speaking? Any question? So if no question, then I will proceed. Okay, so during that time, they barricade that area and they do some remediation and they also use sand to absorb the oil. Okay, so when there is any accidental spill, also you need to do containment. Containment meaning that you contain the chemicals within that area and you clean up. And also make sure we notify to the authorities as well if needed. Okay. And next is about handling and storage, meaning that when you are doing handling, what are the precaution or statement that you need to highlight and how you are going to store the chemicals. So now, when you are handling, you see the keyword is here. Keep away from heat, spark, and open flame. No smoking. So electrical equipment should be approved. Why they mention about electrical equipment should be approved is because when the equipment is not being maintained well and is not approved, maybe there is some spark that it will occur and this spark will trigger this diesel and start to burn. So make sure you do it appropriately. Good personal hygiene practice, meaning that, okay, after use it, remember to wash your hand and all these things. Then use with protective equipment. So later on, the next section, they will talk about the protective equipment. So you see, avoid repeated or prolonged skin exposure. Use only at outdoor and in ventilated location. So you see, when we store it, we make sure it is closed, it is kept properly. But when we use it outdoor because when it is indoor, plus if the ventilation is not okay, not proper, then the gas will actually accumulate in that area, in that room, and you are exposed to very concentrated diesel, then you will feel uncomfortable lah. So they may have some effect to your body health as well. So when you use it, we advise to use it at outdoor, well-ventilated location. So how you define as well-ventilated? You have general ventilation at that room, or how you indicate or notice whether this location is well-ventilated or not. So for example, if you have a room where you store your chemicals, when you open up the room and you went inside, suddenly you feel that it's a very strong chemical smell, meaning that the ventilation is not that okay lah, because the chemical is very concentrated. It stay inside the room. And next, when you use it, wash your hands before eating, drinking, smoking. Okay, all this is inside here. So storing of the chemical. So sometimes they will mention also about the temperature. So this they also mention, and ambient storage temperature, meaning that it's not like too hot, just normal room temperature lah. Then usually they will mention about keep away from flame. Okay, you see this, and sometimes they will mention about direct sunlight as well. Let me see whether they mention. Yeah, they do not mention direct sunlight. Okay, then you see they also mention you need to put a no smoking sign in at the storage area. So in the next section, they will talk about the control and also protective equipment. So control here including engineering control, meaning that you will have some design change to improve the system. So from here, the engineering control that they mention is actually about adequate ventilation. You need to have a proper ventilation. And they also mention you need to have emergency shower, eye wash in the handling area. So next is about PPE. So now usually if you look at this section, they will have everything. Eye, face, skin, respiratory, thermal. Some even they will have body. Okay. So you will notice that they will have a lot of information, but what you need to check is that do they have specific requirement on the material of PPE? So for example, you see, they just mentioned that, oh, you need to wear appropriate chemical protective gloves and all this lah. But for this one, you see, do they need to have any specific glove? No, it's okay. They only mention about nitrile. This one is considered as a general lah. Some they will specify the penetrate time, the materials. So these are we call these more specific criteria of the PPE that you need to use when you are handling certain chemicals. So next, respiratory. When you are handling the chemicals, maybe you need to wear certain masks, okay, and also the thermal, maybe thermal protection. So for this one, usually maybe it's because of some emergency operations, so fire breakout and all this thing lah. So for your case, if you are going to petrol station and pump it, so it's still okay lah. For this current practice, you do not really need to wear all PPEs to pump the diesel, it's okay. But then if you are handling in your place where you are transferring, for example, you have a diesel tank, you are transferring chemicals or anything, then please wear the proper PPE. Okay, and as well as if you have done the CHRA, Chemical Health Risk Assessment, you do it according to what are the advice from the assessor, because the advice from the assessor is the most accurate one, because they will study what are the period of exposure of your employees to these chemicals, etc. And next, they will include chemical properties as well. So for your information, Section 9, physical and chemical properties, you do not need to really understand what are all these terms means and everything, because usually this part is used by the assessor where they use this data to come up with their judgment and their what we call the advices and recommendation. So you just need to roughly know what is the flashpoint and everything. It's okay if you do not really understand what is this. But the part where on the above, yes, please read it if possible. Then next is about the stability and the reactivity. So starting from section 9, so it's more to like this physical or chemical data of this safety data of this chemical. So you can just read through, and if you do not understand, it's okay, because these are the technical terms and technical information for assessor. And okay, the next part that you need to highlight is section 13, which is disposal considerations. So when it comes to disposal consideration, they will not have specific information like telling you when you dispose, please dispose as what. Because safety data sheet is it's applicable for everyone in the world. So usually they will mention, please dispose according to the national act or regulation or national requirements. So if you want to dispose for Malaysia, we dispose according to DOE requirement, which is Schedule Waste regulation. Okay, so if you have any schedule waste, dispose using the schedule waste code. And next, this is more to the traceability information. Okay, so another important information is here. Some they will have this other information where you notice there is a version, issue, date. So why is it information? You always need to highlight is that all the safety data sheets we have, we need to ensure that the safety data sheet is valid. What do I mean by valid? Valid meaning that the date of safety data sheets from their issued date, from today's date, it must be within 5 years. So for example, for this version, the issued date is 2019. So if it's 5 years, it will be 4, which is next year, June 26, meaning that before June 26, 2024, this safety data sheet is still valid. After June 26, 2024, they need to have a new revision. So the manufacturer will come up with a new version of safety data sheet. No matter that, is there any changes of the component or any requirements in the safety data sheet, they still need to review and come up with a new issue date. So make sure when you go through your safety data sheets on your site, make sure the issue date must be within 5 years. And some, they will mention printed date. So printed date is not equivalent to issue date. We will only refer to issue date, not printed date. Okay? So this is the important information and how you read through the safety data sheets before you handle chemicals.
Shin, one question.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
safety data sheet only applicable for if we're using any chemical product, correct?
Yes, chemical.
So means that for our industry, the only thing we can think of is diesel fuel, lor.
Diesel
So,
fuel.
example like tires, which we don't need SDS because it's not chemical item, right?
No, but as mentioned, like if you have, for example, you have like you outsource the cleaning service maybe to another company, then they will store all the cleaning detergent in your company, right? So you ask them to provide the safety data sheet of the detergent.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
But let's say
So
we buy
usually,
from the shopping mall, if we buy from a shopping mall, there's a label stick in the product item, that one we can consider as a safety data sheet.
no, that is just label. Safety data sheet, for example, if you purchase from shopping mall, there's no, when you purchase, they do not give you the safety data sheets, right? So what you can do is like just now, you just Google the brand, the detergent, then sometimes they will actually, you can get the version for that brand. If you couldn't get the same brand, you can look for similar product but different brand. So it is still acceptable.
Okay, so means that SDS applicable, let's say we got office, we still need to look for those cleaning detergent, SDS, just to get prepared.
Yes.
Okay, understand.
Yes. But the most significant one under your operation will be diesel fuel only. Other than that, it's good to have it is because some auditor they want you to have it. Some auditor they say, oh, it's not that significant, it's not even important, so it's okay. They still can accept if you do not store it. So to play safe, make sure you have it lah.
I think for our industry, Sin Lim, for our
Mhm.
industry, just now mentioned already, because we are running
Mhm.
trucks,
Yes.
So first definitely is the diesel fuel.
Mm.
Second is the battery, like I mentioned just now, because we are running batteries, for the trucks. And the third, I think, is the tires lah, because tires, is it considered as a hazardous chemical?
Tire is not. Tire is actually a material, not a chemicals.
Oh,
Ha, 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 ha.
oh, confirm, so we don't need
Because
SDM.
tire is the tire that I understand, right?
But it's made of chemical.
It's made of chemical. Okay, you see, many things are made of chemicals. Even like medicine is also made of chemicals. Even like drugs is also made of chemical, but it's not under the chemical categories. So the tire that I understand is actually the Rhoda, is it?
Mm,
That one is not considered as chemical.
I
But
see.
then if, for example, another thing that you will have pest control, right, in your premise.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh,
usually you will
yes.
outsource the pest control system, right? You will
Correct.
not do it yourself, right? So you ask the outsource to provide you the chemical list that they use for your pest control.
Yeah.
That is also considered
Okay.
as chemical. So
Okay,
usually like for your industrial logistic usually the main one is diesel, then pest control and detergent. These three elements.
Okay. Angie, you need to get it from Rentokil, Angie. Just
So
to make this
for
ready. We should have it.
yes, for your information, no worries, they have it because many companies are using Rentokil as well as their pest control outsource. So they already have that list. So definitely they able to provide you, but you need to ensure that the chemicals the safety data sheets that they provide you, it's valid, which is 5 years, within 5 years from their issue date.
Okay.
So even the English and Malay version, if it's hazardous chemical, they need to provide you as well.
Like just now I mentioned, the battery
Mhm.
considered as a chemical or not?
Battery, the truck battery, is it?
Mm,
So where you get this battery?
supplier.
Supplier.
Mm.
You are not, you want a battery, truck
Same,
battery.
same like we pump petrol, so we get it from petrol stations. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes,
now we get the
yes.
battery, we also get it from supplier.
Let me check. Usually, if, for example, the battery, they have like lead acid batteries and all this, right? Some they have like safety data sheets. Some they have those what we call the material data sheets. So you try to get it from a supplier also lah, because usually this battery they have lead acid and all this thing, right, inside the battery. Let me see. So if I try to search from internet, I still able to get it lah. So I believe yes, because it's not because of the. Where's my Zoom? Let me share my screen. It's not because of the battery itself. It's because of the content of the battery. So for example, this one is what I found from online also. It's actually a battery, but because the chemicals in the battery, so they also have this safety data sheets. You can get it, but as mentioned, usually for logistic, the most concerned one is still diesel. So to play safe, you can get it also.
Mm. Lau, please download those that relevant to us.
Yes, I will download.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. If no question, then we will proceed to the next section, okay, which is on chemical handling, storage, and disposing of chemical. So now, when you are handling chemicals, so to check with you, do you have like a diesel tank or in your premise? Or you just go to the petrol station and pump? So if you have diesel tank or all this kind of tank to store your diesel, okay, so make sure when you are transferring the chemicals, you use maybe a pipe or any method to transfer like this, so that it will reduce the risk of spillage. And next thing is actually the storage of your chemicals. For example, you have a lot of detergent that you store it. So when you store it, make sure it's stored in a proper location and it's not with the food. And also some detergent, I saw it before lah, some it's flammable. So make sure when you store it, also avoid from the source of any ignition as well lah. So if it's flammable, you can actually get the information from the label itself, from the detergent. Okay. But for your information, like if you're just storing like your hand wash and everything, it's okay that you store near to your pantry without lock and everything lah. It's still acceptable lah, according to the practice as well. But if you have like a large amount of detergent, then you store it appropriately lah. Okay, so for gas, chemicals that is in gas state, so usually gas here, they will store it in compressed gas state. So if it's compressed gas, meaning that it's very explosive, and the container itself, it's a potential, have this potential and hazard to become like a bomb. So when we store it, make sure the temperature is not too high, because when it's too high, it will be the gases inside the cylinder will be very reactive, and it will end up explode. And make sure when there's cap, put it on properly and ensure it is chained properly without, to avoid them to falling. Because when this cylinder, which is full of compressed air, fall, then it will trigger all the gases in the compressed gas, in the cylinder, and it will become explosive as well. So next is actually on liquid. For liquid chemical, so when you are using any liquid chemicals, you need to always ensure that the containers of the chemicals is suitable for them. For example, if we need to highlight this is when you are transferring the chemicals to a secondary container, meaning that you use another container as the chemical bottle. Okay, so make sure if you are using corrosive, if the chemical is corrosive, we don't transfer to a metal bottle or anything lah. So next is that, especially when you have a lot of diesel, right? Make sure you keep the diesel away from the ignition source. So also no smoking. You need to have a lot of this signage lah, okay? No smoking, flammable, this kind of signage in your area. So that will try to reduce the risk of having any explosion or fire to happen. Okay, so next is that this is if you are doing any transferring of the flammable liquid. Usually it is good to have a static grounding, a proper grounding area, static grounding area, so that there is no spark. When there's spark, it will trigger the chemicals and start to burn lah. Okay, next we store Okay, now, if I'm not sure whether you have you buy a lot of diesel and you store it in your premise. If you do that, please store it in a fire cabinet or a location which you have fire resistant door and everything, because when there is any fire happen, we try to contain the fire in that area only rather than spreading out. Okay, then next, also store oxidizer away from flammable, because oxidizer, when there is some reaction, they will produce oxygen. So when fire happens, this oxygen will support fire, will support combustion. So to store oxidizer away. Okay, now, so no matter what are the chemicals that you are handling, make sure you handle it at an open area and well ventilated area. It's because when you are handling chemicals, chemical will turn into chemical vapors. So these chemical vapors will be concentrated in that specific closed location, and it will cause some effect of dizziness or anything that happened to you. So make sure when you are handling any chemicals, handle it in a well-ventilated location to prevent any vapor build-up. Make sure you have your SDS nearby the chemical handling area in case need. So usually SDS, you have two different sets. One is in the office as the general master copy, for example. Another one is you keep it at the place where you handle chemicals or the storage area of your chemicals. So if needed, they can actually directly refer to the safety data sheets on site rather than looking or contact someone in the office, provide them this information. So now, chemical storage. So if you have any peroxide forming chemicals, so this is just for your knowledge purpose, you need to store it in the dark and cold, dry area lah, because they are actually a very reactive chemicals, and if anything happen, this chemical will be very explosive as well. So we need to have extra care to this kind of chemicals. So when you do handling, you need to ensure you have a proper label. After you use it, remember to close it. When you dispose it, dispose appropriately. So when we store it, make sure it's upright. Not only the peroxide forming chemicals, other chemicals is also the same. We always store it upright to avoid any spillage to happen. Okay, so next is about chemical disposing. So when we look through chemical disposing, now you need to know chemical is a hazardous material. Okay, another term we can describe chemical is hazardous material. So now, when this chemical become waste, the hazardous characteristic is still there. So from hazardous material, they will turn into hazardous waste. So when it is under hazardous waste in Malaysia, we will consider it as a scheduled waste. So if it's scheduled waste, you need to have a proper method to dispose it. On how to dispose and everything, it will be another new topic, which is more details. However, the common general information on how to dispose it, I will also guide you through that. One thing, when it is still as a material, we label it. So when it becomes waste, we still need to label it. So we need to ensure that we have label and we have designated location to store all these waste. So we need to indicate the location with proper labeling, proper identification. So also we need to segregate the waste as well. For example, initially when this chemical is still a hazardous material, we mentioned to avoid to store it under direct sunlight. So when this material become a waste, we still need to avoid to store it to avoid storing it under direct sunlight as well. And also we need to store it according to the hazardous level as well. Okay, so for the flammable, don't store it with the non-flammable, all this information. Okay, store all the waste in compatibility adequacy size container with adequacy secondary container must be leak-proof and free of exterior contamination. So now, when we store the chemical, if you know that you have a lot of waste that is producing, please have a bigger container to store it. So you, especially when you have liquid, if you have liquid waste, you need to have a secondary containment. What do I mean by secondary containment? Let me show you a few pictures of secondary containment. So this is actually an example of secondary containment, where it is to avoid when there is any leakage, to avoid the chemical flow through the production area or flow through your premise or flow through the nearest drainage area. So it will contain the liquid chemicals, the liquid waste in that area only. So this is what we call it as a secondary containment. So if you have liquid waste, please provide secondary containment for the liquid waste as well to avoid any leakage to the nearby drainage as well. Okay, then next, handle carefully to prevent injuries to workers and other personnel. No overfill the container. So now, why we need to handle carefully? So for example, if there's a few situations, one thing is that the employee do not know the hazardous level of the waste. So when they handle it, they may have some potential injuries or health hazard to the employee. Another thing is, for example, you are using a metal container to store your waste. So maybe there is some area that is very sharp when there is any cut to the employee. That is not a normal cut. That cut will include chemicals as well. So the hazardous level will double up. Okay, so we need to make sure that we handle it carefully to prevent any injuries and make sure there's no overfill. Why there's no okay, for example, you don't store your waste until 100% of the container because there will be very high risk of potential spill. So when there's spill, you need to clean up again, you need to have costs to clean up, then you need to buy another chemical spill kit again. So these are all costs. So the best way is don't overfill it. So when you are transporting the waste, it will actually avoid spillage as well. So label the containers. So each of these hazardous waste, or we call it as a scheduled waste, there is a proper method to label it. So you need to have a labeling with the code of the scheduled waste, as well as you must ensure that the first date of the waste produced is mentioned in that label. And we need to ensure that the label is attached to the container. Some cases is that, oh, it's very oily. Even that I paste it around the container, it will still come out. So some they will use tag to label the container as well. As long as we clearly know this label belongs to this container, then it will be okay with it. Next, to seal the container so that it is easier for transportation. This is also a way to prevent any spillage during the transportation of the scheduled waste as well. So one thing is that all your scheduled waste, you cannot keep more than 180 days after the generation. What do I mean by after the generation? For example, I have an empty bin. Today it's 12/12. So I throw one tissue into that bin. So the generation date will be 12/12, no matter how many waste I have in that bin. So for scheduled waste, also the same. For example, I use a cloth to wipe off the diesel, and this cloth will become a scheduled waste. So on 12/12, I throw this cloth into this bin. The generation date will be 12/12. So this waste must be disposed to the correct location within 180 days. So we cannot store for more than 180 days. So any question on this topic for the chemical storing, handling, and disposing? No question?
No question.
No question. Okay. So for your information, if you want to have further understanding or knowledge on the disposing, you can refer to DOE Environmental Quality Act. Under DOE, there's one regulation, it's called Schedule Waste Regulation. So that is the proper method on how you dispose hazardous waste from your premise. So hazardous waste here is not only referring to the expired or unused diesel, it's also referring to all the cloths that you use to clean the diesel spillage and everything. Okay, so that will be another details topic lah on schedule waste. So
Actually, okay, talk about just now all you mentioned is local law, ma. So I
yes,
understand international law we have the EPA.
EPA, US EPA.
Yeah, so when it comes to audit, we only refer to local law, or will they look into the international law as well?
Okay, US EPA is actually not considered as international law. US EPA is actually the environmental protective law for US. But then many company, they may have some customer which is in US. So they have requirements to follow US EPA. But for your information, during your audit, they will only look at two requirements. One is the requirement under SMETA. So if under SMETA, they have any specific requirement on some information, then refer on that. From what I know, because I also have some client that is doing SMETA and has already passed their audit. In SMETA, no matter in health and safety or environmental, they do not mention US EPA. Okay. And another thing is that they only mention about national requirements. So when it comes to national requirements, we follow our OSHA, FMA, and also EQA requirements in health and safety and also environmental pillar. Unless there is any specific requirement in the SMETA regulation. From what I can recall, under environment and health and safety, there's no specific requirement. But in the topic of Employment Act, there is specific requirement.
Okay, clear.
Shin,
Yes?
two questions. Just now you mentioned your customers have passed this SMETA audit.
Yes.
In what industry? Manufacturing?
They are manufacturing. They are manufacturing.
Manufacturing. Okay. Second question that I wanted to ask is, just now you mentioned about the two classification, or how you call it, definitions. One is the scheduled waste.
Schedule
Other
waste.
one is the hazardous waste or hazardous
Hazardous waste.
All right. How do you classify these two?
Okay,
What is the
for
difference of these two?
actually, hazardous waste is equal to scheduled waste. Just that
Oh,
scheduled waste is the term that we use in Malaysia because this is the legal term that DOE usually use. But in general, hazardous waste is equals to scheduled waste. It's just the term that we use in
I see.
Malaysia.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought it's
But it's still
different.
the same. Oh, no.
Okay.
Because if you go to overseas, they will not use scheduled waste. They will use hazardous waste. Just
I
that in
see.
Malaysia, we'll use scheduled waste. I think the reason why they use scheduled waste is because this is just my opinion lah. I didn't get any information. It's because I think it's because you need to plan when you want to dispose of waste. You need to plan the timing, how to dispose it, when you want to dispose it. Maybe it's because of this reason they call it as a scheduled waste lah.
Mm.
Okay. Okay? Thanks. So any other question that you guys want to know before I go to the next part? No?
Okay, during the audit, for
Mm-hmm.
example, I'm talking about more towards the office. Okay. For
Office.
example, if let's say there's an audit, how
Mm.
do we actually audit on this disposal of the waste in the office and all this? Will they audit this as well?
Okay, first of all, they will look at the first part is do you entitled to follow or to comply with schedule waste? So when they audit about waste, right? Maybe this is not a topic on chemical responder, but I'll still share with you. So they will look at two different ways. One is general waste, one is hazardous waste, or we call it scheduled waste. So they will see whether do you have scheduled waste. So what are scheduled waste? For example, you purchase all the detergent bottle, right? So when you want to dispose the detergent bottle, that one is scheduled waste. Because it is contained, before this, it is containing chemicals. So as long as anything that is contaminated by chemicals, it is when it become waste, it is called it as a scheduled waste. Unless another case is that, for example, I will not dispose it. I return to the supplier for the recycling program, for example. So another example of schedule waste that in office definitely have is ink cartridge. So you have, maybe you purchase from Canon or HP, all this company, right? So there's a ink cartridge. So actually, ink cartridge is also considered as a scheduled waste. We cannot simply dispose it. So when you want to dispose the ink cartridge, you need to use a proper method to dispose. So another way to avoid you to have this cost to dispose waste is that you send it back to the supplier. It's more to like reuse or recycle it, so you are not disposing. So another one is general. So from general waste, for Malaysia, they will know there's no specific requirement how to store or anything.
Shanine, sorry. Come back
Yes.
to just now your scheduled waste. If let's say
Yes.
we are not returning or not recycling method, we are
Mhm.
doing our own self. What is the correct method?
Your own self, meaning that
We dispose of ourselves.
you dispose of yourself. You dispose yourself, you need to actually apply and register under DOE, and you need to get a code. You call it SW code.
Aiyo.
Schedule waste code. And you need to ask the transporter, the approved transporter, and also facility to do it. So the easiest way
I'm
is
talking about the
do it
detergent,
recycling.
sorry, I'm
Detergent,
talking about detergent,
yes, it's still the same. But this is the proper method. So another way is that you don't dispose it, you reuse the detergent bottle.
Oh my God.
So for example, this is the
Okay, for
proper
example, no
method lah.
detergent, not detergent bottle, but talking about the bag. plastic bags and all this?
Plastic bag is
Single-
okay. Plastic
Oh,
bag is
plastic bag is
considered
okay.
as general waste
Oh,
because it's not contaminated by chemicals.
plastic.
Because it's not hazard. Plastic bag is
But your bottle
although
also is made
plastic.
of. Your bottle
Yes.
is also made of plastic.
Okay. How we differentiate it for example, I take plastic bag and chemicals. So for example, that
Plastic bag versus
although
bottle.
everything it's produced by chemicals because plastic are chemicals, right? But for this case, plastic bag will not have direct pollution to the environment. Although we know there is, right? What I mean direct pollution is like, for example, they will release chemicals and they will pollute maybe the water body. So why chemical bottles we need to dispose appropriately is because in that chemical bottle you still have chemical residue. It's not because of the bottle, it's not because of the bottle, it's because of the residue in the bottle.
The plastic bag also will have it.
Plastic bag, if you use it to store chemical, then yes lah. If you are not using it to store chemical, then it is not a hazardous
I'm
waste.
referring to example of detergent. Detergent can be in the bottle, it can be in the bag, right?
Okay, so do you mean the refill package, right? The
Ah.
refill bag, right?
Uh,
Yes, then that one will be under schedule waste. I thought the plastic bag that you mentioned, like when we go and buy
not
food,
the normal one.
the
I'm
plastic
talking
bag.
about the pouch or the packaging. You
The
know.
refill packaging,
Mm-mm.
that will still be. But
So it's still
but
schedule
for your
waste.
information, because this kind of detergent, it is still considered not that very, very significant hazardous. And usually legal authorities and the auditors will not emphasize on this. So this one, if you want, you can, after you clean it up, you do recycling. No problem with that. You no need to go to apply schedule waste and everything. So the easiest way, you recycle, you can also get some money back also. So there's no issue on this part lah.
Meaning to say we have to clean it before we recycle or we sell it off lah, right?
If to clean it or not clean it is depends on the party that collect your recycle bottle or the plastic. Some usually they will ask you to clean it up because they will have extra costs to clean up also. Yes.
So indirectly, if let's say we want to avoid to apply all the
Mhm.
whatsoever from the
Mhm.
DOE itself, we
Mhm.
just have to establish a process saying to how to recycle all this schedule waste
Yes,
lah.
you just
The comma, right?
you don't mention it as schedule waste. You say recycling of plastic bottle.
I see.
Yes, you don't mention the word schedule waste because if you mention the word schedule waste, it's a totally different thing. So
I see.
we
Understand.
to justify whether it is waste it's actually the justification of the company. For example, I don't justify this plastic bottle as a waste, so it is not a waste.
Okay.
So if you justify as a waste, then it will become waste lah.
Understand.
Any other question?
So recycling process is the best lah.
Yeah,
get rid of all
easiest,
this,
and you can get money back also. You just recycle.
with two purpose.
Yes.
Ivan take note of this.
Because if you dispose as general waste,
The process.
it's also very wasting because you can't get the money back. Why not you recycle it, right? Or if one, you can reuse the bottle also. It's still okay for that.
I think mainly is to escape from to get rid of all
Yes.
this.
But for
not
the battery,
more
right?
on the money.
Yes.
Because
But for the battery, you cannot do it this way lah. Battery, the best way is you return back to the supplier.
Understand.
Because if battery you want to dispose, then that will definitely you can't do anything with it. It will become scheduled. So the best way for battery is return to the supplier.
Okay.
Any other question?
So we also take note, just now you mentioned, we've forgotten
Mm.
about this ink cartridge that we use for printers in the office. So this is considered as waste. I mean, you know,
So you
method as well.
can choose to recycle it lah.
Mm.
Or because some, for example,
got to
if
take
you
note,
purchase for the ink cartridge, right, you purchase directly from HP, Canon, or how? Or you buy it from the stationery shop?
We go through a supplier.
Supplier lah. If that case, you can directly return to supplier.
Mm. Any other in the office that you can think of for this?
For office, usually only this ink cartridge, which is maybe
Detergent.
auditor will mention. Pardon?
Detergent, ink cartridge.
Usually, these are the two main thing that is mainly highlighted lah. Because some cases like this, there's no schedule waste that can, or any environmental topic that auditor can find already. Then they will go for this kind of waste. But tissue and all this, okay. So for industrial schedule waste, it's only covered in the scope of industrial waste. So even in your factory or in your office, you have toilet, right? But the waste from toilet, wastewater from toilet is not considered as industrial waste. So there's no worry on that. So as long as like for the toilet part or your pantry and everything, the auditor will maybe they will look at, or do you have Shabas, is it? In some location they use Shabas or any other company, right? Depends on the state. So they will look for like water bill and all this thing only.
Oh, okay. Oh, you
So
get
they
to
will
this.
then yeah, that is the thing lah.
How about normal rubbish? Rubbish.
Normal general waste, general waste, they will just look at the environment and see whether the waste is it near to their, maybe you have like maybe you have the general waste location where you put, is it very dirty or anything? Because in meta requirement they talk about cleanliness. So when it becomes cleanliness will become very subjective lah. So just make sure the housekeeping, general waste is okay. There's no specific requirement on general waste, as long as the general waste, the is it alam flora for your side? There is a few lah, depends on the states also. As long as it's collected, then okay. All the bills and all the permits, you apply and you pay the bills and no problem.
Shin,
Yes.
just want to check. Is there a minimum amount of waste to be considered as scheduled waste, or one bottle of detergent also already considered as scheduled waste?
Yes, one bottle of detergent is also considered as scheduled waste. Just that if one bottle of detergent, chemical detergent bottle lah, the contractor will not come and collect. So that's why it is sometimes we can't. Some company they can't contact the schedule waste contractor to come and collect. Is because they will not come and collect because of
Yeah,
that
because
little
too
amount.
small.
Yes. So if you have, like, for example, the battery, right? So if the amount is too small, you just send back to the supplier, because supplier usually they have a big amount, then they can actually dispose it in their way.
Okay, noted.
Any other question? No? If no, then if everyone is okay, then we'll continue for this PPE part. Okay. No. So next we'll go into PPE. personal protective equipment. So for your information, there is a lot of personal protective equipment. So we will go through all types of protection. What are the types of PPE that you can actually find in the market, and how to choose your personal protective equipment. Before I go into how to choose, first thing is that the personal protective equipment that you purchase must be Syrian and DOSH approved. How you check whether it's Syrian and DOSH approved? So one thing is that when you purchase your PPE, there is a sticker of Syrian or DOSH. And there is maybe some identification code for the Syrian or DOSH. Another thing is that you may directly ask from your supplier to provide you the justification of the Syrian DOSH approval. Apart from that, you can actually get it from the website. So you can go to DOSH website, or the easiest way is that you directly Google search this keyword, approved PPE DOSH. So you will notice there's one page, it's DOSH Syrian PPE approval. Sorry, not this one. This one. I'm so sorry. Recognize, approved and recognized list. So I will share you this link in the chat box so that if you are interested, you can look through this also. So in this session, you can find this approved list category. So inside this approved list, you will notice is they differentiate it according to the type of PPE they have. So you see you have head, body, foot, eye, ear, hand, respiratory. So now, we just take hand protection, the general one. Hand protection meaning glove lah. Okay, so when you purchase PPE, you need to ensure that this PPE is DOSH and Syrian approved. And how you check? You notice that it's the company, the manufacturing company. What are the product or what are the gloves that is approved? Then you will notice they also highlight about the model. Now, for this one, start with JKKP. This is the DOSH approval number. And you notice this one, nombor rujukan Syrian. And this will be the Syrian approval number. So you need to make sure that the PPE that you purchase, it's approved. And each of these, they have their expiry date of their approval. So make sure when you purchase the PPE, it's still valid, meaning that it's still under Syrian and DOSH approval lah. So do you have any PPE at your site that you already purchased and you are using it?
It should be related to driver PPE lah. Driver PPE like safety shoes, safety vest.
Shoe. Okay, then maybe we go to safety shoe lah, will be this one, foot protection. So what is the brand of your safety shoe that you are using now?
This one I can't answer.
They got so many in the market, Shin Lim, so we cannot get Chapalang one.
Do you know what is the safety wear, the most common one, safety wear, all this, right? So if possible, you after this when you want to purchase a new batch of safety shoe, make sure it's inside the list Usually like safety wear, all these are very common one and it's in the list Okay, so you can go through this one as well after this.
I think for this PPE, with all these strict, stringent approval or approved items, it is more critical for those, manufacturing plant where they really need this, especially when they're handling on some chemicals. But for our drivers who are actually required to wear this shoes, safety shoes and all this, I think that is not that required all this approval, quality, isn't it?
Okay. Now we need to know what is the purpose of wearing your safety shoe. So now you require your drivers to wear safety shoe. Why you require your drivers to wear safety shoe? Maybe it's because they may need to handle some of the material from loading or unloading, right? So, for example, when PPE is required, meaning that there is certain reason. So for Dosh, no matter they will not see whether you are manufacturing or not, as long as you are in industry. And furthermore, for Dosh regulation, it is covering all industry, even though you are only working in office. If you are working in office, but because of certain operation, you need to wear PPE, you still need to follow the requirements. So as long as it's definitely is in at all industry lah, except a few things that is excluded by DOSH, for example, Army Force and all this. Army Force, the tentera, all this is excluded by DOSH. Other than that, all activities are included and need to fulfill DOSH requirements.
You mean, okay, if let's say the audits is on the safety shoes and all this, you mean the auditor will also check on this in details?
Depends on the auditor, how detailed they want to check for health and safety, because health and safety topic is too broad. It's very, very broad. So it's not only for the SMETA audit itself. Sometimes when the legal authorities, they come and audit, they will look for this. For example, if suddenly one day DOSH officer come and do audit, then they will look through this also. So for the current, now from the market, those that you can purchase usually mostly are steering and DOSH approval already. So no much worry on that lah. Just that you can actually have a double check action to ensure that it's really approved, and even if there's any audit, you do not need to worry that much also lah. Any question for this part? If no, then I will continue for the chapter 4, okay? So now that will be the first criteria when you choose the PPE. And next is that when it comes to chemical part, we need to ensure that what are the chemicals that you are dealing, the types of exposure, all this will be the factors on how they choose the proper PPE for handling your chemicals. Not only your handling of chemical, like handling of other things also the same. Okay, so you consider like, okay, what are the exposure? For example, the types of exposure through ingestion, meaning that you intake, then maybe it's related to mask. So if some exposure is through eye contact, then it will be related to your safety goggles or what is another, any eye protection. Okay, and the toxicity of the chemicals. For example, some chemical is very hazardous, very toxic. So maybe you need to have the materials of your PPE need to be, there is specific requirement for the material used. For example, maybe the thickness of the glove, the material used to produce the glove, they may have some specific requirement. based on the toxicity of the chemicals. And next, types of operation. What are the work that you are doing? For example, when you are doing when you are handling some loading or unloading work, you may need to use some glove which is grip for the grip purpose so that you can handle it well. And maybe you are using a lot of sharp tools, then you may need to have the anti-cut gloves. So now, if you are handling chemicals, maybe you need to have chemical resistant gloves. And maybe if the chemical is in high temperature, you need that gloves itself need to have thermal protection for high temperature. So depends on what other types of operations. And next, whether other options are available to control the exposure. For example, if you have any other option to control, maybe you can actually use other option, because personal protective equipment is the lowest, we call it the lowest effective lah to protect yourself from all these chemicals, but still we need to wear it. Okay? So for the PPE, you must wear it properly, consistently. When you are using chemical, please wear your PPE. Even you're not using chemicals, you are doing any other work that require you to wear PPE, please wear your PPE properly. So now, we will go to eye protection. So for eye protection, there is a few different type of eye protection. So the main purpose of eye protection is to always protect your eye when you are handling any hazardous materials, such as chemicals. So you see, you have types of glasses, you have safety glasses, invented or indirectly invented, then goggles with face shield, or other eye protection. So it is depends on the potential of splash. For example, the splash hazard for your eye is just a little or minor. Usually we'll wear safety glasses. Safety glass, later I will show you the image of safety glasses also. Another commonly used when you are handling chemicals is goggles. Goggles is where you have very high hazard or high splash hazard when you are dealing with chemicals. Okay, other than that, if your operation you have some UV, then maybe the safety glasses or the goggles will have UV protection, etc. So now, difference between safety glasses and goggles. So goggles here is like the goggles that you use when you go to swimming. It will have full protection of your eye. You can see here, even the lower part, side part, and the upper part, it will be protected. So it's fully sealed. So when you wear the safety goggles, you need to ensure that the goggles is actually sealed to your face, meaning that there's no space around. Okay, so it's fully protecting in all direction and all way to your eye. So usually it will also protect you from aerosol or vapor, all this operation. So this is safety goggles. So next is safety glasses. So the difference between safety glasses and safety goggles is that safety glasses is like spectacles. So the difference of safety glasses and spectacle is that spectacles is only in front, right? But safety glasses, there is a side shield beside here where you can see in this picture. So because of this, it is not a full protection. They only have the front part and the side shield. So the upper and the lower part is not protected. So that's why this is for minor splash only. So this is to protect your eye in the minimum level when you are dealing with chemicals. And this will not provide a complete protection. So this type of safety glasses, right, it will not tightly fit to your face as well. So when you purchase safety glasses and safety goggles, there's different way of wearing also lah, and how it is protecting yourself, your eyes. Then another type of safe eye protection here is also face shield. So some they only have the face shield, and some they have the safety glasses with the face shield, meaning that it's not only protecting your eye, but it's also protecting your whole face. For example, some of these face shield is to protect you from some flying particles. So maybe the splash or anything, so that it will not contact to your skin as well. So this is where you use face shield to protect. And usually this is not like a single piece. You have two pieces lah. Usually it's combined into one piece. Then you just wear it as normal. Then it will protect. It will have a complete protection as compared to safety goggles, because it will protect your whole face as well. Okay, so usually we will use it for highly corrosive materials, so that it will protect your whole face rather than just your eye. Then that will be eye protection. Okay, any question before I move to hand protection? Okay, if no, then I will move to hand protection. So hand protection here is referring to gloves. Okay, so the types of gloves that we can wear. So for today's topic, definitely is chemical handling, but I will also introduce you other types of gloves so that you are not only aware on chemicals, you are also aware on other types of glove. So the common glove that we use for chemicals is nitrile gloves. If you are handling chemicals, definitely you use nitrile gloves. If there is some specific characteristics of the chemicals, then maybe there is specific requirements of the materials of the glove, the thickness of the glove, because they need the materials protection and the thickness to reduce the risk of penetration to your skin. Some of the hand protection will also protect you for temperature purpose, for thermal protection. For example, you are handling chemicals which is very cold. So the gloves that you wear will have thermal protection to avoid that that low temperature to hurt your hand, and also same goes to high temperature as well. It will have thermal protection function. Usually for the chemicals that you need to have thermal protective function, like the glove itself is very long. It will actually go until your elbow level, near to your elbow level, and it's very, very, very thick. And some of the hand protection here will also have the function of protecting your hand from cuts or tools. For example, some it will have protection for sharp, some it will have protection for punctured, some it will have protection for compress or pressure. Some even they will have a basic function of grip. You can actually hold, by using this glove, you can actually grip the materials or anything properly. And all this function of hand protection that you can find it outside is not only one function for per glove. Some gloves, they will have different function. For example, I can use it for chemical plus thermal protection. I can use it for grip purpose plus sharp protection. Some even I can use it for chemicals plus grip. So you need to look for the types of gloves that is more suitable to your operation. And another thing is that when we have completed our work, make sure that if you're using chemicals, right, you rinse your glove, you wash your glove before you remove your glove to make sure that all the chemical residues is cleaned off. Okay, and let me think of anything that's related. Okay, another thing that is related to your other operation, maybe it's not related to chemicals already. For example, you have some operation, you are more to logistic, right? So definitely you have warehouse, right?
Yes, we have one warehouse in Johor.
Okay. Yes, so when you have warehouse, definitely there's a lot of loading and unloading. So in your warehouse, maybe you need to, okay, the forklift that you are using, is it electrical forklift or you need to use any fuel for your forklift?
A battery forklift.
Battery. Okay, battery, then it will be much more better lah. For battery, usually maybe you need to see maybe more to like the grip or that kind of glove. So because if you have forklift that you need to pump the fuel, then or you need to transfer the fuel and everything, then you need to have chemical gloves. So apart from that, when you have your operation in your warehouse, usually there's a lot of loading and unloading activities. So you need to have the hand glove rather than more to chemical protection. Maybe you need to have the hand glove which is more to grip protection. So this one is some additional knowledge for you lah. When this is much more relevant to your operation in your warehouse. If you are not transferring any chemicals in your warehouse, chemicals here referring to the diesel or the fuel. Okay. So that will be the hand protection. Any question for hand protection?
No.
No question, right? Okay. Just now suddenly one idea popped out. So for your cleaning service, you hire an outsourced cleaner or you hire your own cleaner? Outsourced cleaner lah. Okay. If you have outsourced cleaner, maybe they will have their procedures as well, how to do it. Because some detergent, for example, some detergent, maybe the detergent that they purchase is actually concentrated. So they need to mix with water before using it. So that is also a process that they need to have gloves when they are using to transfer the concentrated detergent and all this based on the hazardous level also. Some detergent would be very hazardous, some is not. Some, for example, in order them to clean certain thing, for example, you may need to use thinner to clean off certain things. So that is also a operation that you need to use chemicals when you are doing. So it depends on what are the chemicals that you are using and what is the hazardous level of the chemicals. So I'm not sure, but I have seen most of the logistic company, even it's not logistic company, they will have thinner in their operation. Maybe it's for to clean up certain things. So to use the thinner, you need to have a proper method to use it lah. So, any other question? Okay, if no question, maybe we can proceed this topic after lunch. Is it okay? So we'll continue body protection after our lunchtime. And also everyone to, I think just now I saw that the attendance list to send to your site, right?
Yeah. I mean, normally, after the meeting, I will provide the name list lah. I will provide to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. No problem. So if it's after, then we'll do it after the session lah. If not, for now we can directly send to you also, no problem.
Can also.
Can also okay, then I will get Miss Gan to directly send to you also lah. Okay. So if there's no other question, then maybe we'll continue this part after our lunch. Okay. So we will come back in an hour time, right?
No, we start at 2 lah.
Pardon? We start
we
at
will
2.
continue
Okay.
at 2, yeah.
So we will continue our training at 2 p.m. No problem.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Then we will see you guys at 2.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so welcome back everyone after our lunch. So we will continue our session. So let me just share my screen. Okay, so it's everyone able to view my screen and hear my voice clearly. So if you cannot see my screen or cannot hear me clearly, you just raise up your hand or just drop a message in the chat box lah. Okay, so now we will continue for today's topic here. So, okay, let me add this. Okay, so now, just now we have, hold on, there's some more it's entering. Let me just admin them. Okay, so since this morning we have gone through like what is the general safety precaution. Yes.
Bagi tahu wifi.
Yes, any question?
Oh, sorry.
Oh, okay. It's okay. No worries. Okay, so since this morning we have gone through like a bit on what is chemicals, handling, how we can actually dispose the chemical waste. What else? Like how we identify chemicals. How can we understand what are the chemicals, right? So after this, we will have a brief recap again. But then for now, we'll continue on the PPE section, which is personal protective equipment. So before our lunchtime, we already go through eye protection and also hand protection, which is generally our safety glasses, goggles, or our gloves. So for now, we will continue for body protection. So for body protection, it also includes our skin protection. So usually body protection, the most commonly body protection that we are more familiar is lab coat, where we use in working in labs. And the purpose of body protection is also mainly on splash when you are transferring some chemicals. So there's a possibility of having splash hazard to your body. So the body protection here is to avoid all this splash to your body. Okay. And next is also other than the coats that we are more familiar with, There are also clothing. For example, we have safety vests. Safety vest is also one of the body protection example lah. And other than that, body protection not only includes PPE, it also includes what are the types of shirt or pants or wearing your clothing that you are wearing into the workstation or into the workplace. So usually we wear long pants and also shirts into the warehouse area, right? So no shorts, no skirts, and all this thing. Other than that, there are some body protection you'll be using when you have emergency response. So, for example, if you seen some of the picture of the bomba people, they will have their body protection. So the purpose of this protection is to ensure that the heat, the high temperature from the fire is not hurting their body. So this kind of body protection will have the thermal protection as well. Okay, so mainly on chemicals definitely will be splash lah. So some it's the lab coat, some it's like the apron type of body protection. Okay, so they also in this apron type of body protection will also help us to reduce the hazardous of the chemical effect when there is any potential splash to our body. Let me see. Okay, so next will be food protection. So generally food protection, the commonly the one that we know is the safety boots lah, the one that we always wear. So the main purpose of having this food protection definitely is to protect our food, to reduce our food contact with chemicals. Other than chemicals, it may also protect us from some heavy equipment. So usually, we always ensure that open-toe shoes, sandals, slippers, it's not allowed to be into our warehouse area. So cloth shoes is also better not lah, because imagine in warehouse you have a lot of equipment, and other than that, when you are handling chemicals, when you are wearing a cloth shoes, when that is a spillage of chemical, the cloth will absorb the chemicals, so it will not protect us. Moreover, it may worsen the situation. So it's better to have a proper foot protection, a safety shoes. So this safety shoe usually can avoid the contact of chemical to our food. Other than that, helping us to protect our food from this heavy equipment. So usually you'll be wearing this not only in the warehouse area, some company when you need to enter the production area to wear it. Like the most common one is construction site lah. You must wear it before you entering their place, so to protect our food. So one thing is that how can this food protection or this safety shoe protect us? One thing is the material that they use, and another part is that cover the whole foot. And in terms of heavy equipment, usually they will have some metal or in front of the toe part so that when there is anything, it will help us to reduce the impact from the heavy equipment. So that will be the foot protection. So usually the main thing is not only protecting us from chemicals, also protecting us from other heavy equipment, especially when we are doing a lot of loading and unloading as well. Okay, so next will be respiratory. So for respiratory protection, it will be the mask that we are familiar with. even the face mask, okay, that we are using these days or these years, it's also considered under this respiratory protection. So this face mask here, it is to protect our inhale system, avoid the exposure of dust or any gases, vapors, chemical vapors during our inhalation process. So let me take an example. So all this respiratory protection, they have a filter. So this filter, it's the main function of this filter is to filter out the unwanted particles in the air when we are doing inhalation. So for example, during COVID, we always wear face masks, and the expertise always highlight that, oh, it's better you wear a 3-ply face mask or you wear N95 and all this thing. So this 3-ply or N95, the name of the face mask itself also showing us already. So another thing is they will filter out certain amount and certain size of the particles in the air. So apart from that, when we are dealing with chemicals, we also use face masks. So some situation we can use N95 for certain chemical procedure. But for some situation where there is a lot of vapor or the particle size, it's very, very, very fine, then you may need to have a more advanced respiratory protection to protect our inhalation system. So now this two image here. I mean, maybe you can refer to the one on the right. This one is the face, not to say face protection, the respiratory protection, which is they have better function of it. So you can see the one on the left and right is like the eye, right? But this thing here is actually the filter. The main thing where it helps us to filter out all the unwanted particles, also the chemical vapors in the air when we are doing inhalation. So when we purchase respiratory protection, we purchase this whole thing. However, after that, you may purchase the filter only. Then what you need to do is just you replace the filter so that it can still function well. Okay, so maybe the mask itself will have its own expiry date, so we need to refer back to the suggested time period used from the manufacturer to us. Okay, so when we are dealing with chemicals, so I believe diesel and fuel for your operation still okay lah. You don't need to use all fire safety or emergency purpose. Or you see the one from Bomba, right? When they do firefighting, they will have their respiratory on. It's because when there's any emergency, the oxygen content in the fire is very, very low because the oxygen is used to burn already. So in this case, you will need to have a filter as well as oxygen tank to supply you oxygen. So we don't risk ourselves if we do not know how to handle the situation. Okay. So next, this is actually ear protection. So ear protection here is actually an additional one for you because we are introducing we are introducing new PPE, right? So we'll introduce in the whole package so that you are aware on ear protection. However, ear protection do not have a very significant function in protecting yourself against chemical, because the main thing of ear protection is to protect our ear from high noises from the industrial. So it is more to protect our eardrum, to protect our ear function by using ear muff or earplug. So it is not much related to chemicals lah, for your information. Okay, any questions before I go into this emergency preparedness and response?
Just common question. Must consider PPE in terms of audit.
You mean face mask, is it?
Yes.
Yes, face mask is considered as a PPE in terms of respiratory protection. Like this one, this is face mask. It's a respiratory protection.
Okay.
Any other? No? If no, then we'll proceed to this part, which is on emergency preparedness and response. So, for this chapter, we will go through some requirements and also the exposure, chemical spillage, and how you want to do emergency preparedness. So first of all, I would like to ask, what I know is you guys are doing SMETA. However, are you guys exposed to any ISO 14 or 45,000 as well?
No.
No, right?
No.
Okay, understand. If that case, I will just briefly go through for the ISO 14 and 45. So for 40 and 45, for your information, you just need to do it like a awareness thing lah. And many countries, they do use ISO standards to come up with their guidelines as well. So it's like a good to know thing. Okay, then we'll go into CDEX requirement, where what are the requirements that they mention, or they will use it to require us to have some proper training on safety and emergency. Okay, so for information, under ISO 14 and 45 code, there is one part where they come up with the emergency preparedness and response. They need you to comply and plan your proper emergency response, even if it's not in ISO system. So for usually under warehouse, there is certain fire safety requirement from bomba. For example, the sprinkler, the location, how you want to set your goods and everything. So other than that, you also need to have a proper emergency planning, emergency response plan for bomba audit as well. Okay, so you do not need to have like a very good understanding in ISO, all this thing lah. Okay, just briefly telling you that, okay, ISO 14 and 45 also requires you to have a proper emergency thing. Other than that, for CDEX, when they do audit, they will also look at the bomba requirements other than 14 and 14, other than DOE and OSHA, because they will need to know whether you need to comply with bomba and do you have the bomba cert. Okay, so make yourself prepare for the bomba cert as well if you haven't get it.
Question.
Yes.
Because some of our site actually is shop lot.
Shop lot.
Okay. So what we survey, and we call the bomba branches in certain states.
They are not applicable to get the bomba cert, right?
Yeah, they say that the floor square feet less than 3,000 square
Yes,
feet.
yes. So,
Maybe, sorry, Shin Lim.
mhm.
I think it would be also good that for you to share the kind of requirements.
Okay.
Are this in your slide later on?
It's not in my slide because but then I can briefly tell you some of the
Yes.
requirements under Bomba site. I
Yeah.
can tell you it now lah. Okay, for your information, currently the requirements from Bomba, like what Mr. Lau mentioned just now. So most of the place where, for example, my office is actually a shop lot. So I'm not required to get Bomba cert. But from one of the safety officer that I know, he is actually quite close with the industry as well as the many legal authorities lah. He did mention maybe I think next year will be the year where there's a lot of upgrade in the act and regulation related to environmental safety and health topic. Because what I heard from him is that not only DOSH there will be new act that is going to enforce. Another thing is Bomba site, they also, which is the Fire Safety Act lah. Government also realized that this act itself, there is a lot of loopholes where there are some operation. It is good to have Bomba cert, but it is not included into the scope. So maybe in the future, they will actually make the scope more broader so that it can include most of the operation, which may also include you as well. But the draft or anything is not out yet, so we didn't hear any news yet on this part. So if next time you are required to go for Bomba, one thing, some company they directly approach Bomba. Some they will approach Bomba consultant, where they will ask this consultant to enter to see how is it. Because when we plan or when we want to get a Bomba cert, we need to ensure that we have a proper planning on the emergency response. Other than that, the main thing is actually on the existing fire safety. How many sprinkler based on your operation, and what types of sprinkler, and is the exit door located in the correct location? What else? Like the fire extinguisher, so they will check. So one thing is that not only Bomba, so even SMETA audit, even you are not required to have Bomba cert, but still you need to have an emergency response plan. So after this, I believe my colleague will also help you to establish an emergency response plan. But this emergency response plan will not be like very, very specific into like the Bomba requirements. We go for the maximum. No, this will be what you are easily implemented. Okay. And one thing is that the most common thing that they will check is, first, do you have fire exit door? Okay. Next is that each of this exit door, there is one emergency exit signage. Do you have that? Next is that fire extinguisher. Do you have fire extinguisher? In your warehouse, do you have sprinkler? What then about the stacking? The stacking shouldn't be higher than the sprinkler. It must be below the sprinkler, but don't like very near to the sprinkler. Okay, and apart from that, they will, in SMETA audit also, they will audit, do you have any maintenance report to your fire safety system? For example, you have a sprinkler, you have all this fire emergency exit signage, there's some lighting, right? So they want to see, do you have any maintenance to it? Maybe you are getting an outsource people to do the maintenance. Okay, no problem, but you need to show them on all this equipment. And fire extinguisher, make sure it is make sure it is not expired lah. And generally during SMETA audit, the main thing is that the pathway is clear, meaning that the emergency pathway is not blocked. Why I emphasize this is because normally in warehouse, there is insufficient place to put all the goods, right? So you may actually temporarily put at somewhere else, which is blocking the pathway. So make sure that you plan on the storage part so that it is not blocking. So these are the main highlight for Bomba site, and also SMETA audit when it is related to emergency response. Okay.
One question.
Mhm.
Is it requirement the fire exit door must have minimum 2 exit door per floor?
I think for this one, for your case, you are the shop lots, right? So initially, when they built this location and everything, it's according to the requirement already. So to have a specific details understanding on how many exit door and all these things, we may need to have a Bomba consultant to consult based on the activities, based on the number of people and how big is your location. Okay, but usually it is best to have at least lah 2 exits. In case if one of the exit malfunction, you have another exit. This is one of the minimum for the exit.
Okay, Shin,
Yes.
take your office as an example, because you're also
Yes.
shop lots, right? I'm not sure whether your shop lot got any backdoor exit.
Okay.
Of course, you have one entrance.
So for those that you have a backdoor exit, so it is also depends on firstly the Bomba requirements. What I know is that there are requirements. I'm not sure the exact figure lah. If you have until how many floors,
No,
then you need to have a backdoor exit. Or some operation where, for example, I'm actually operating hotels, right? Then there's a lot of people inside, so I need to have a backdoor exit. So some of these shop lots, they do not require to have a backdoor exit. So we need to plan as in when we only have one main exit for each of the shop lot area, we need to make sure that one thing, all the exit usually for office, it may be auto, or you need to have some password to, and in order the door to open up, right? So one thing is that when there is emergency happening, how you ensure that all the system is unlocked, meaning that without, we try to reduce the risk of malfunctioning, and because it's emergency, we do not need to have extra action or anything to unlock the door for us to escape. So it's actually depends on what are the buildings, how many people, what are the operation, then they will come up with one clear justification. What are the criteria that you need to follow?
For
So
example,
the
just to quote you, one of the office is actually at the first floor. All right.
okay.
It's a shop lot, and for this kind of office, so it is actually not required to have a fire exit, is it? Fire exit door?
Usually, if you have a back door, it's good also lah.
No. For example, now we do not have. So any
Mhm.
qualification on that?
For SMETA audit, it will not affect anything, because one thing is, for now you are not required for Bomba cert. If you are required for Bomba cert, then we only need to go for the Bomba requirements.
Which is the fire exit lah, the back lah.
Yes, but still, if you can have it it will be best. But it's not a must for you because you do not
Office
need
have
to
it? Do
comply.
your office have it?
My office is not at the first floor. Our office is actually at the top floor. So their building are not required to have like each of the shop blocks have the back door exit, but they have all the exit outside the pathway.
Means that each floor got multiple exit lah, either left side or right side lor, correct?
Yes, there are
This
multiple
is
exits.
loudest. What Shin Lim said is like the Pride HQ lor, where we have come out from the office. You have all the pathway, left, right. We can exit, but if let's say just purely on the office, like typing office, then we do not need to have it lah. In a way.
But Shin, but we see based
Mhm.
on Samantha criteria measurement, the audit criteria, they got stated that need 2 exit per floor. I mean, based on the
Need
Samantha
two exit
me-
per
Is
measurement
from the
criteria.
apply
auditor.
to those that you need to qualify for the bombarded one, right?
Okay, I
So the
think that two
keywords-
exit is like, okay, you see, first thing when we come to SMETA audits or any kind of audit, we need to comply national and the audit requirements, the standard requirement. So now, for this one, it doesn't mean that if required, they will put in bracket if required. If they didn't put if required, meaning that that is one of the audit topics that they will audit you. So for example, they mention you need to have at least 2, then meaning that, so it's no longer like whether to comply bomba or not really.
Sorry, Shinlin, this last
Yes.
sentence, do you mind to repeat? Because our Subang office just now, the internet lagged a little bit. The
Okay,
last
okay,
sentence.
okay. Okay, so now when we do audits, right, it will be referring to the standards audit and the national requirement. So now, what I understand is that your site is not applicable to get a bomba cert. So there's no specific national requirements that you need to follow. However, you still need to follow the requirements from the standards. So I think your auditor did share you a checklist that what are the things that they will audit, right? So these are the requirements that they are looking at. So if they didn't put in the bracket if required, meaning that you need to fulfill.
to make it simple on this, you write to Intertech to give them, our typing office where size, and ask them on this fire exit. That would
Okay,
be
I will
easy.
ask. I will
So
ask.
just straightforward lah. I mean,
I will
otherwise, we talk here also, we couldn't get any answer because it is still subject to the auditor's requirement.
Yes, true.
Right?
Everything
So
also,
we get
the final
we do a
decision is
straightforward
actually
thing,
at auditor. Yes.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So any other questions before I go into continue this part? Okay, no? So I will continue on this part. These are the few session or few that is written under, the first one is under health and safety. Health and safety is actually under your social responsibility topic, where first part 3.1, they mentioned that you need to provide a safe and hygienic working environment. Other than that, the knowledge, the specific hazards, how you want to prevent accident or any injury in your workplace, how you want to minimize the risk of all these things to happen in your working environment. So this is the first clause where it will link to your EHS topic. One thing is how we handle our chemicals in a more appropriate way. to reduce the risk. Other than that, how we ensure our handling method is safe. And next, when there is needs of emergency response, we have a proper planning on emergency response. So this is also one thing, one way to comply with this part 3.1. And another one is the workers shall receive regular and recorded health and safety training, and such training shall be repeated for new or reassigned workers. So each of these workers, if they are need to handle certain operation or activities, they need to be trained. For example, if you want this worker to drive forklift, they need to be trained how to use forklift. If you want this worker to handle chemicals, they need to be trained on how to handle chemicals. If you want these workers to handle your hazardous waste, then they will need to be trained how to handle hazardous waste. So it is good after this to have a refresh training every year to your workers. You can do it internally, no issue with that. As long as you have your safety health coordinator, or maybe you have your safety health officer, they can actually do all this refresh training to your workers to refresh them. And all this training shall be recorded, meaning that you need to have training attendance, evaluation, etc. Okay? So apart from that, in the first thing that you need to comply is that you need to have safety personnel in your workplace to coordinate all these things. Okay, so this will be the place where we have in health and safety under health and safety topic 3.1 and 3.2. Okay, any question before I go to another part, which is going into environmental? Okay, good. Okay, then I will go into environmental. So, under SMETA, there's 2 pillar and 4 pillar. So 2 pillar is actually the minimum, and 4 pillar is the one that they have more information. So for even 2 pillars or 4 pillars, they need you to comply to the national requirement, which is a local requirement. Okay, and if needed, any other relevant international standards that you maybe it's your customer who requires you to fulfill, or any other specific requirements from anybody. So first thing, of course, your emergency response, where you need to have a planned emergency response. After that, only we look at it whether after this you need to have a BOMA cert or how. If yes, you need to comply with the BOMA as well. So next, under, I think there's one typo here, it's 10B 4.5. Suppliers shall be aware of the significant environmental impact of their site and its processes. So why we can actually link environmental to emergency response? So now, when there is emergency response, it doesn't mean that the emergency is to fire. It is also possible to chemical spillage. So when there is emergency, they will not only have the potential injuries to the employees, also they will have potential pollution to the environment. For example, you have fire breakout, so the pollution can be to the atmosphere. So when there is chemical spillage, the pollution can be to the nearby water body. So we need to always aware what are the significant environmental impact in our site and also in our processes. In case when there are any case of emergency, how are we going to handle the emergency and contain the chemicals so that it is not spread? And how can we notify? Should we notify DOE when there is any spillage happen to the nearby drainage or to outside your premise? So these are the few requirements that is included in SMETA, where you need to have a proper procedures on doing chemical handling, disposal, as well as you need to have a proper procedures in doing emergency response as well. Okay. Any question on this two requirements? One is health safety, and another one is environment under SMETA. Okay. Now, then we will continue to the next part where we have on this exposure. So for this topic, exposure, how we will expose to the emergency. So this emergency can be either small or big. Imagine the chemical spillage. It may be just a small spillage, or maybe it will be a very big spillage. For example, you just accidentally spilled some of the diesel on the floor. So you can just clean it, wipe it. Compared to another case, there's some accident happening outside, and the truck is actually transporting fuel or diesel. That will be a very big spillage. So based on these two types of exposure, the method of doing emergency response will be totally different. So when there is just a small spillage, you can actually do it by yourself. You contain by yourself and do the cleaning and proper disposal by yourself. And please, if possible, do investigation so that this thing will not happen again. As for the one that is more to disaster, you need to contact DOE to declare that, oh, there is spillage, and they will advise you on how to contact all the emergency response. You do all this emergency response. So only if needed any expertise, then they will send some of the expertise to control the situation. Okay. Okay. Next part. Don't try to handle an accident for which you are not trained. So accident for the emergency response definitely is because of something that happened and it triggers. One thing can be fire. Another one can be chemical spillage. Another types of chemical response maybe is because of injuries. So if you are not trained to handle fire, please don't do it. If you are not trained to handle chemicals, please do not do the chemical handling process. So if you are not trained to treat someone or give someone treatment, so it may be the trained first aider in your company. If just a small injury, if needed, please contact Bomba or ambulance. They will be the one that do all this handling for you. Okay. So next, exposure can be result from spill, leak, poor ventilation, or faulty PPE. So now we know already spill and leak, definitely it's one of the input of exposure. Poor ventilation. How poor ventilation can let us to have this exposure to this kind of situation? First is the example that I gave just now, where maybe you have a chemical room, and the ventilation in that chemical room is not that sufficient. So the chemical vapor build up in the room. So when you enter to that room, you will feel dizziness, and maybe you faint after that. So in that case, this exposure will lead you to have some first aid treatment or hospitalized. So another one is faulty PPE. For example, that specific PPE can only protect you for uh, 2 years. It's a reusable PPE. So you still use it after that, then it will not protect you lah. Just an example, like helmet, safety helmet, there is a lifetime. So even though it's still within the lifetime, but this safety helmet already help or protect you in some injuries, you need to use a new safety helmet already, because that safety helmet is considered as a faulty PPE, because the function of it is already done previously. So, and also like the chemical glove, some are reusable, some are disposable glove. So you need to dispose it after each time you use it for the disposable glove. So don't reuse it, because when you reuse it, the function of the glove will not be that effective already to protect you and to protect your hand. So this is how the faulty PPE will cause exposure of us to this situation. So now this exposure may have some effects, and these effects include irritation, burn of skin, eye, throat, and lungs. So the types of effect to us, the types of exposure effects to us is based on what are the exposure route to us. So now, if it's a skin contact, it may be irritation or burn of skin. So if it's eye contact, it will be the effect through your eyes. So throats and lung. Throat will be when you accidentally ingest chemical, then the effect is through your throat, and lung it's to inhale, to accidentally inhale maybe chemical vapors that's very concentrated, then the exposure effect is to your lungs. So the effect can also cause you to have dizziness or headache, disorientation, or unconsciousness as well. So depends on how serious and how deep is your exposure. So if you expose to a very, very concentrated chemical vapor, you may actually go until unconsciousness. If not, maybe just a bit of dizziness. So if you already leave that location, you will feel better after that. And another one, it's damage to your internal organ. So some chemicals are very corrosive. So when we accidentally ingest it, it will corrode our throat and corrode our other organs. Other than that, some chemicals, they have health effect, where from time to time, they will give you a chronic disease. Maybe it's a cancer, nose cancer, lung cancer, can be any types of cancer. Depends on what are the chemicals, and usually this chemical affect which organ of your body. Some they will even attack your nervous system. So the most famous chemical that will affect your nervous system is actually mercury. So this is one where last time we always have mercury thermometer with us. But now, if you notice in primary school or any public location, there is no more mercury thermometer. This is because when that thermometer break, mercury will expose to the atmosphere. And if we are exposed to mercury, when we inhale it, mercury will actually attack our central nervous system. So we will have some disease due to central nervous system. So that's one of the reasons why it's very, very, very hard for us to get mercury thermometer ready for now in the market. Okay, so this is actually some hints when you have any accidental exposure. So this is just like an immediate action when you accidentally expose. to this kind of chemicals. So one thing, if you accidentally inhale large amount of chemical vapor, you quickly move yourself or ask your colleague to help you to go to an open area, good ventilation, so that you can inhale fresh air. Then you will feel much better. This is one of the way when you accidentally inhale a lot of chemical vapor. Next, ingestion. Ingestion means that you accidentally drink or eat chemical. So now, one method, some chemicals can induce vomiting, but it is not suggested to do that because many of the chemicals, if you induce vomiting, it will have another degree of injury to your organ. So remember, if you especially chemicals that is corrosive. So if you accidentally ingest any chemicals, especially corrosive chemical, do not induce vomiting. So usually what to do is that you first refers to the 50 data sheets, of course. So that's where before you use it, you read it first. So another method is that they will use some agent, or some they will ask you to drink a lot of water to dilute the chemical in your body. After that, quickly seek for doctor attention. You may need to be hospitalized to clean up all the chemicals in your body. So one of the way is actually dilute the concentration, the chemicals in your body by drinking a lot of water. Okay, but still we need to refer to the proper method in doing emergency response based on what are the chemicals that you are doing, which you are handling. And next, remember to go to hospital, look for doctors so that they can treat you and help you to release all the chemicals in your body. Next, when you accidentally contact with chemical, this contact can be contact to your skin or your eyes. So remember, immediately rinse the part where you accidentally contact the chemical at least 15 minutes. It can be your eye, your hand, your finger, your face, your toe, your leg, anywhere. Okay, so usually if for the face area, we'll use emergency eye wash. Other than that, usually we'll use emergency shower. Okay, so make sure you have that with you if you have any chemical, liquids chemical. So next, if you accidentally spill this chemicals, right? So that's one of the way that they are exposed to your body. So after you have rinsed through all the chemicals, remember to remove all the clothing, and you need, it's better for you to rinse again your body. If possible, you take a shower with soap. Okay, then you replace with another set of new clothing. So there's one case that is happened also, where it's happened in front of me, where one of my senior accidentally spilled hydrochloric acid, concentrated hydrochloric acid in front of me. So luckily that this senior of mine, she wear lab coat with her, and she have her jeans which is quite thick. So accidental spill to her body to rinse off all the hydrochloric acid, because hydrochloric acid is chemicals that is very, very, very corrosive. So if there's no proper handling or proper emergency response, it will actually burn our skin and it will burn not only our skin, it will corrode into our skin. So my senior that time, she's quite lucky because the lab coat really protect her, and the lab coat end up burn off, and both her legs is just a bit of like red color like this are just a very very light burning lah. So like for this kind of situation, touch wood, if anything happen, please do proper emergency response. After that, please remember to do investigation. Why this thing happens? How can you avoid any other practice or improvement in your operation so that you can avoid similar cases to reoccur again? Okay, and if needed, please please do notify to DOSH office if any accident happen. If not, if DOSH office aware that you didn't notify them, they may come in and they may compound you based on the seriousness of the case. Okay, so if anything happen, if needed, please do notify the legal authorities. Okay, any question before I go to fire part? No question? Okay, if no question, then I will go to next part, which is on fire. I saw Mr. Lau unmute your mic. Is it any question?
Yeah. Got one question
Okay.
from my team.
Yes.
Just now you mentioned those if cases they will come to check and all these earth, right? But normal subsequences, do they can randomly come anytime to check us or
Okay.
check
For
for
DOSH, it's very seldom for them to have like the spot check. If they want to have spot check, usually they will notify in their official website telling you that, okay, in this period you have spot check for maybe chemical labeling. Please make sure your premise is practicing the good chemical labeling. Okay. Another case where suddenly DOSH will come is that maybe DOSH get some reports from any other people or complaint. Then based on the complaint file, they will come and do investigation. Because they
Okay.
are also lack of resources also. So it's very hard for them to simply go and do spot check lah. But it is triggered by something when they do some investigation or spot check. Okay.
Okay. Good.
Any other question? Okay, no? Okay, if no, do you guys want to have a short toilet break or you want to?
Actually,
Uh,
your this
Yes.
fire, subsequently you have how many more slides?
Let me see. Because after this session, we will have a evaluation where we will do exercise.
After this fire?
Let me see. After the whole thing, after the exposure fire, I will go through the chemical spill as well, and also guide you through how you can actually do your emergency drill. What are the highlight that you need to prepare yourself and the important documents that is related to emergency response.
Which is a fire drill, right? Or the evacuation plan, with the
Yes,
evacuation plan, right?
yes. I will go through that also.
See.
Shin, we also want to
Yes.
go through one segment. because Vicky passed us one document, I think prepared by you lah, about the truck carbon emission calculation. That one is prepared by you, right?
I think it's a similar document. It's on carbon emission, right?
Yeah, maybe we want to spare. It's just a short
maybe we
while
can
lah, so-
actually have some discussion after the training session on this
Yeah,
part
yeah,
lah, on the
yeah.
emission. No problem, no problem.
Okay, thank you.
So in that case, do you want to continue the session or how?
Maybe you finish off with the fire lah. After that,
Okay. Okay, then if that case, because after this fire, I will go into a bit of chemical spillage. Then only I will go into the fire response, which
drill.
is the emergency drill. Yes.
The what I'm trying to say that the chemical spillage and all this, is it a lot of slides? So at least we clear off this.
Chemical spillage is not that much. Maybe I will clear off everything first. Then
Yeah, before the fire drill, we have
can
a short
actually
break.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
So at
yes.
least we
Yes,
know
no
that these
problem.
are the emergency response.
Okay, no problem. Okay, then we'll continue. So just now we talk about exposure. Another part of emergency response is actually the main one, which is fire. So this fire, we always need to we need to aware one thing is that fire it's very dangerous. Other than that, fire that is triggered by chemicals are much more dangerous than the normal fire, because fire that is triggered by chemicals, it will release some toxic gases, and some of this fire which is triggered by chemicals, it may be fire that you can't uh, see from your bare eyes. Okay, so there are some fire you can feel the temperature, but you can't see it. So these are the types of fire that is triggered by chemicals. It's because of chemical reaction, then there's some fire happening. So when there is fire, if you're not sure how to handle it, please get the professional one to handle it, which is bomba. So usually when there is a fire breakout, if it's too large, do not control it by yourself. You alert the trained personnel or maybe your ERT team to handle that emergency, meaning that maybe you need to have an evacuation and you need to call up bomba and ambulance as well. Okay, so next, bomba will decide which force to send to your premise to do the fire fighting service. So now, if it's a normal firefighting, it will be bomba. So if they notice that that fire it's the source, or there is some part of the fire it's due to chemical, then they may need to contact another force, which is hazmat, HAZMAT, hazmat. So hazmat is actually one of the bomba force under bomba also, but they are actually dealing with hazardous material fire. Okay, so if you are not sure how to deal with the fire, please contact the professional people to do the firefighting. So next, spillage of chemical, also the same. If it's just a normal small spillage, what you need to do is you can do your own containment. You alert the people nearby. If needed, you evacuate the people. If it's a serious spillage, you need to evacuate. And how can you consider as a serious spillage? Depends on what is the chemical spillage. For example, if it's just small, just a few drop of diesel spillage, that is just a small spillage. But if compared to a few drops of mercury, that we consider as a serious spill, because mercury is very, very hazardous and it will become mercury vapor and it will attack our central nervous system. Okay, So it will be depending on what types of chemicals. So it will be depending on the safety data sheets as well. Okay. And after you have content all this chemical, the material used to content, it will become a waste. So all this thing must be disposed as a scheduled waste. Okay, so don't dispose as a normal general waste. So one thing is that if you notice there is spillage, first thing is definitely you look for the chemical spill kit, right? So we always need to ensure that chemical spill kit is ready and is available nearby. If possible, you need to have a proper SOP on how to handle, how to use all these things. Okay. And when you purchase chemical spill kits, there is a user manual for you already. So no problem with that. Okay. Then this one, 50 minutes is actually the rinse period of rinsing when you are exposed to chemical in terms of maybe to your eye or to your skin. Okay, make sure you must have an eye wash or emergency shower if you have any chemicals, liquid chemicals. So
Shilin, just now,
Mhm.
I think we've forgotten
Yes.
about there's another chemical that we had in the office that is the hand sanitizer.
Yes, hand
The
sanitizer.
spray
Yes.
sanitizer that we always use now. So I
Mm-hmm.
think that one is also under chemical category, right?
Yes, it's under chemical category. But for your
Mm.
information, hand sanitizer, right? Because although it's flammable, but although you see there's a lot of signal words in the safety data sheets, but usually when there is spillage of hand sanitizer, you can do it like the normal method. However, when you store hand sanitizer, please do not store near to the then location where you have direct sunlight, because hand sanitizer are still a chemicals that is very reactive, so it will start to burn because it's flammable. Other than that, because the hand sanitizer that we always use because of COVID, right? It's considered as a very safe kind of chemicals already. But still the storage method you need to consider lah. Don't store with food, don't store under direct sun like this only.
Disposal of those bottles and all this, I think you just have to follow the recycle based way lah.
Can, no problem. If you want to send back to a supplier also can. No problem with that. Okay. So behind here is like a final after and in any situation where you are exposed to chemical, even though that you have done your first aid treatment or you have rinsed through or anything, any emergency response that you have done, you still need to seek for medical attention. Okay, it's good to do that because, for example, we already rinsed through. I have a spillage, chemical spillage, and it contact to my skin, my hand. So I already rinsed through. I personally, I feel that I'm very confident that there's no chemical residues. But sometimes we cannot feed it. Maybe it's actually at some of the location, maybe in between your nails and all this location. So it is better that we still seek for medical attention. Okay. So if needed, please call ambulance for that. And one thing is that if you have emergency shower and emergency eye wash in your place, make sure that the piping system is not linked to the general piping system. So, for example, your warehouse piping system where maybe it's linked to your emergency system, it is linked to maybe to clean up the diesel area, it must be separated from the normal piping system that we have, because it may damage and it will end up damaging the pipelines and the function as well. Okay, so it is good to separate out two different piping systems. Okay. So this is actually what we have for emergency eye wash. So usually emergency eye wash, there is a place where you can use your hand to push it over. So if you have this emergency eye wash, you need to regularly check whether the flow of the water is there. Is the flow too what is the term to use? Too slow, okay? And also, is the water clean? Because usually we don't use it, right? So maybe it's stagnant inside already. So maybe there is some particles or any dirt inside. So make sure that the waters are always clean to use. And you need to have a proper procedures to clean off the spillage. For example, like this one. Imagine, when I clean off, I start to clean off from this location. But you see, the leakage source is actually here. So no matter how long I clean it, it's still the same because the chemicals are still around. So it is not an effective way of doing cleaning. So you need to have a proper procedure so that we do not waste too much resources in doing all this cleaning procedures, as well as we do not waste our time because it is we are doing ineffective or efficiency work. So this is example of the chemical spillage. So this is actually example like it's a spillage of diesel or oil. So usually we will use sand to contain it. Then we will, after we have poured all the sand, and after we have collect back all the contaminated sand, we need to dispose as a scheduled waste lah. So this is one example of chemical spillage. And for firefighting, so usually when we have firefighting, we need to have some rescue team, which is our ERT member. And if needed, please contact Bomba as well to help out and make sure that we have our first aid team ready with all the first aid item. So this is where we need to have regular check on our first aid item so that when we need to use it, all the items are there, are available, and it is also not expired. Because there are many cases like I have a lot of clients, they are not only doing SMETA, there are also some they are doing ISO, some they are doing other kind of standards where there is EHS topic in it. So when we go to inspect or check their first aid kit, we realize that some of the item in the first aid kit is expired for years. And another highlight is that no medicine is allowed in the first aid kit, and the first aid kit must be always locked. Okay, so this is one of our national requirements. So remember on this part.
Sorry,
Yes.
first aid kit have to be locked? What do you mean by that?
So this is also one of the questions that is
Makes sense or not?
always everyone asks. So this is one thing. They want us to close and restricted. So it's like chemical storage area. You need to have restricted location where it's not easily accessed by public. So first aid kit also the same because they don't want us to misuse all the thing inside. So there's a reason why they want us to lock our first aid kit. But then, because if you lock it, it's very hard to use it. So that's why if you have a lot of shifts in your company, you need to ensure that you have first aider ready in every shift. Apart from that, it is good to have a person that is nearby And also you may need to have like label, which is maybe the first aider name, what is the contact number based on the first aid kit. So when that's needed, we know who to contact.
Another thing I think it's good to have a record as well. Who are
Yes,
actually
yes,
drawing out those,
yes.
you know.
Because if not, everyone can actually open up and use all the thing, right? Then the company keep on buying new item to refurnish the first aid kit, but we do not know why. It's also one good thing to track the
You have a
injury.
control lah, in a way,
Yes,
control
yes,
mechanism.
yes.
By the way, just now you also mentioned another point, which is cannot have a medicines in the
Yes,
first aid kit.
yes, medicine.
So
So, mhm,
Panadol, that is considered as medicines, right?
yes, Panadol is considered as medicine. So Panadol is not allowed in the first aid kit.
Oh.
So those medicine that you use to ingest is not allowed. Only for external apply is allowed in the first aid kit. But still, when we purchase first aid kit, they have Panadol inside, right? So you need to actually take out the Panadol. So you can say this Panadol belongs to me, but you cannot say the Panadol belongs to the company in the first aid kit, because they do not want, because what they want to promote is that when you need any medicine attention, you look for doctors, because doctor are the one that is professional to give any advice, not the public and the first aider. So this is one of the reasons why medicine is not allowed in the first aid kit.
When you refer to the medicines, is referring to those digestion.
Internally.
Yeah.
Yes, internally. So the external apply is
External,
allowed.
okay, yeah.
Yes, external okay. So like the iodine or the eye drop, all these are still okay, no problem.
Okay. So we take note that. Thanks.
Yeah, welcome. So any other question on this part? Okay, if no question, we will go into the emergency response and preparedness. So do you need to have a short break before this session, or we
We
continue
go for a
this
short
session?
break. Yeah? We go for a short
Okay,
break.
no problem.
Thanks.
So we'll come back in. Now it's 3:15. So we come back in 10 minutes time.
We go for 3:30 lah, easier.
3:30, can, no problem. Then we will come back 3:30.